watching to the Black Eagles podcast, a Beşiktaş talk show.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Hello, Black Eagles. Welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. Beşiktaş are continuing their stumble towards the finish line, and not just pundits but also fans are starting to question Ole Gunnar Solskjær. Hi, my name is Kaan Bayezid, and as every week, we on the Black Eagles podcast are here to cover the ins and outs of Beşiktaş and what's going on in and around the club. And I am joined, as always, by my co-host from New York City, Sinan Schwarting. Sinan, welcome to the show.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's good to be back. It's
Is it really?
yeah. I mean, sort of. I mean, it's good to see you guys from the group therapy session. It's in that sense, it's good to be back. But yeah, awkward circumstances, we could say. Yeah. Let's move it along though to our other host over
let's
here.
do so. And of course, we are joined, as always, by our third head on the show, Mr. Katal, or the most handsome head on the show, perhaps, Mr. Oh, how are you doing, Katal?
I mean, not too good, man, considering the current state of the club. I feel like a lot of people, it's getting hard to watch Beşiktaş just now. Like, obviously, we still watch it because we're loyal and we love the club, but it feels like a chore just now. I don't know if you guys agree. And also, it's like one of those ones where, like, see when we're doing well, you look forward to doing these episodes, but now it's just like, let's get it over and done with kind of thing. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I do have a wee bit of that feeling as well.
Yeah, definitely to an extent. I mean, it is like, and I kind of think that's the same way for people watching and for people listening. I have noticed it a lot the last 3 episodes. Like, there's been a massive dip in viewership. Like the Galatasaray episode, we hit 1,500 plus views, and then the subsequent 3 episodes, we barely crossed 100, and we normally do like 300-400 easily, even when games aren't going great. But I feel like a lot of people are in the same mindset right now, and I completely agree with you when you say it kind of feels like a chore. I can't remember the last time I thought to myself, should I watch this game? And then of course I'm like, yeah, of course I have to watch it. I have to cover it for the podcast. I can't not watch it. I was at my dad's actually on the weekend, and I just plugged in my earbuds. I watched it on my phone. I didn't want to bother other people with having to watch it on the TV, because who wants to watch it right now? Honestly, it really is like a chore watching Beşiktaş at the moment. And the main reason for that is because we play incredibly boring football. We create nothing at the moment. Like, you can just tell that this team has completely checked out. And I feel, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, but in this match, it's the first time I kind of had the feeling that Solskjaer kind of had almost accepted it. Like he's like, yeah, like he feels like, yeah, these players, they don't want to, or they can't. Their morale is too low. We're not gonna be able to turn this match around. And like in the second half, it just felt like he was happy with the point, and not so. I don't think it is because of Solskjaer being not respecting the club, not knowing this is a club where you always have to play for the win. I don't think it is that, because I think that's what some people are probably thinking of. Oh, how can you do those substitutions? How can you put on Kerim I like the last 30 seconds of the match? That kind of stuff. Like, that's like Anadolu takım mentality. I don't think that's the problem with Solskjaer. I think what Solskjaer is right now, and he's catching a lot of flag online. He was already catching some flag by pundits and by former Beşiktaş players in recent weeks. It really annoyed me, honestly. But now fans are catching on to that, hopping on that bashing train. Obviously, that is, at least to an extent, a result of those prominent figures, going after him, trying to pull the rug out from under him. But a game like yesterday does not help, because you're kind of almost proving the naysayers wrong, I think, by doing what he did. And I, to an extent, understand it, because I don't think it's necessarily he's happy with a point in Izmir. I think it's more like he knows these players, they're finished, they're done, they're mentally checked out. As soon as anything goes wrong, and this is also, and I'm sorry for going so long, guys, but like in the post-match interview with who was it? Which one of the players was it? I don't even remember which one of the players it was, but I think Amir said that as soon as when we conceded, it just gave us a moral blow, or like a mental blow, and we gave the game out of our hands. And I understand, like, this is not abnormal in football, that right after you concede for like 5 or 10 minutes, sometimes it requires you to find your footing in the match again. But we conceded in minute 46, and we don't find our footing in this match at all for 45 plus minutes.
Yeah. We created one shot, and that feels right in half.
Yeah. The coach, or was it the coach, or I forget, maybe it was one of the players. Maybe it was Merit. Somebody was saying that we were much better in the second half, and they were pleased with how we kind of responded, and that we deserved the match. I didn't feel the same.
No.
I thought
What? Go ahead.
I was just saying, I felt Gztepe was the better team.
Yeah, in the second half for sure. In the first half, I thought we were at least dangerous. I think our goal we scored was fantastic.
Yeah, that was good.
The goal was, and the second goal, which was offside.
The second goal, but was offside. It was
both offside. Moments of magic by none other than Rafa Silva, of course.
But that was it, right? Like first half, we score a really good goal, and then for the remainder of the first half, we are just trying to kind of pick them off on the counter, and we had a couple of half dangerous opportunities on the counter, but no real chances, I think, not that I can remember at least. But in the second half,
I mean, after our goal, it was mostly them, but they were like half chances, they weren't really dangerous.
They had
until, of course,
really?
even their goal, right? Like, you wouldn't think a ball at an awkward height for a guy like Ismail Köybaşı is going to be something you have to worry about, but we all saw what happened, obviously. I mean, even he seemed stunned.
Of course, yeah.
Everyone was.
His career is the best goal you'll ever score.
Yeah.
He scored a couple of good goals, but that's...
I mean, that's actually the irony, too, though, is as bad as we were in the same ways that we're kind of typically bad these days, we actually showed really well, I thought, defensively. Our midfield was pretty solid, even though I was surprised by some of the choices. Ox. Jedson was playing up front, and Amir played much better than I thought he would.
I thought he was terrible in the first half, but I think Amir was actually one of the few players that was better in the second half than he was in the first half.
He fit into the match.
I might get hate for this, but I think Oxlade-Chamberlain was our best player yesterday.
He was pretty good. He really was.
I mean, pretty good.
He was instrumental in the first goal. He had the hockey assist.
And he was trying to make stuff happen as well. He was taking on players, played some decent passes here and there. I mean, not that he was excellent. No one was excellent, but I felt like him and Rafa, Mustafa,
I thought Mustafa was probably the best, honestly.
Mustafa was actually pivotal in that first goal as well. It's his pressure that actually wins the ball back before passing Ox. And Ox obviously played a great reverse through ball to find Rashika on the wing, who pulled it back to Rafa for a nice finish.
And that's the thing with Rasicka. I think like the one good thing he did all game was the one moment on the wing where he didn't have to beat anyone. He was played through in behind. All he had to do was lay it off. But then there were multiple moments in the match where he had a chance to break out, where we had a counter opportunity, and Rasicka just can't beat a man. Like I think one time he dummied. Who was their left back? Maybe we'll have a look at it here. Who was their left back, guys?
Ismail.
No, it was
Ismail.
Ismail was playing wingback. I think it was what was the guy who played left center back? He was playing.
The guy with the mask, Taha.
Yeah.
No, not Taha. The black guy.
The masked madman. Oh, Heliton. That guy.
The other one.
I thought he lost his arm or lost his leg.
The other one. What was the other one called?
Bukali.
Yeah, he dummied him twice. I think it was him at least. And then but then on the he still got dispossessed. Like he dummies him twice. He dummies him twice, fakes it around him twice, and then he still managed to get dispossessed. Like it's just so telling for Rasicka. And like I know he actually is an excellent assist. And for his stats, it's good. But like if you look at like just this match, he was so bad again. And with bad, I mean I feel like Rasicka is like 90% of the time when he's on the ball, it's like if there was like a mantra you could stick to him or like a something like that, it would be Milot Rasicka, where attacks go to die. That's how it feels. Like and I know statistically he looks decent, but he kills so many attacks.
Is it fair to say that we played again with kind of a false nine with Rafa in the middle and with Mustafa kind of more playing on the left side?
Definitely.
Yeah, Mustafa was always on the wing, I felt.
Yeah.
He worked his socks off. He ran tremendously. He didn't lose the ball every time. Like, I mean, I think he barely lost the ball, honestly. I think he was really good in that. It's just, he does all that really well. He weighs on a defense, but there's like zero threat of him scoring. Like he has no presence in that regard.
Yeah, he's not a chance creator. I mean, he's a fighter. There's a world where he's like a Kyle Larin type, maybe. With a little bit more grit.
I know.
But he just doesn't seem to be able to like get his head on the ball or finish, right? Like, which is the key trait of what Kyle Larin accomplished that one year.
The thing is, like, Semi came on, and I don't think Semi was good when he came on, but he immediately was a goal threat. Like, I think he had a really good turn.
He had a couple shots. Remember that one shot that was should have been on target. He just sent it super wide.
Like that reminded me a little bit on the goal he scored against Malmö. But that's the difference with him and Mustafa right now. Is Mustafa is really weighing on the defense, working really hard, making lots and lots of runs, but then I don't think he had a single shot on goal. And the thing with Semi is, I don't think he played particularly well. He had some bad touches.
I thought we were worse when he came on, to be honest.
Sorry?
Say again?
I thought we were worse after Semi came on.
Yeah, we were. But
of course, yeah.
But he does immediately pose a goal threat. And that's the thing with Mustafa. I think he really played a good game, but at the end of the day, he's a striker, an attacker. He needs to be a goal threat, and he's not. So, I mean, obviously, no, he's 17. He's about to turn 18 in a couple of days, I think, or he might have just turned 18. He is very talented. He has a long way to go. There's plenty of time for him. He can develop into a fantastic player. But right now, obviously, he's not what we need. But unfortunately, we've said this so many times this season, we don't have a single striker in that squad. That is what we need right now. Like, nobody can bring it. Chiro isn't bringing it. Semi isn't bringing it. There's a reason Mustafa is getting picked ahead of both of them right now. And he is...
In Chiro's defense, he did not have a chance to bring it yesterday, which could be a talking point. I don't know if you guys want to go there yet.
Sure. I mean...
He's done, right? Like, the mean, Ole did Ole say he was on his way out?
I don't think so, but Serdar Adalı gave an interview on TRT Sport, I think, the other day. He did talk about Ciro and alluded to that he was hopeful that Ciro would be willing to tear up his contract in the summer and leave. And then after that, Ciro expressed in Di Marzio that he was looking to see out his contract at Beşiktaş. So
yeah, enthusiastically.
I think it's really. I mean, it's really stupid. I think for Serdar Adalı to say stuff like that publicly.
Yeah,
It puts all the pressure on us because now
Exactly.
clubs. Yeah, it's just dumb. It's just really stupid. That's kind of stuff you need to keep behind closed doors. You don't do that.
I agree.
I agree.
It's
Like, see now, man. Like, if anyone was thinking about making it for Ciro, they're going to say, "Oh, look, they want rid of him, so like, we don't have to pay anything." And see what
Exactly.
No, look, Gattel, they weren't going to pay shit to begin with. But now you run into a situation where, he's on $6 million a year. We'll cover 2 of that. And you pay the remaining
Yeah, exactly.
4.
We'll do you a favor since we know how. You come in, Cartel. Your point stands. Your point stands.
It worsens our hand is with the point. Obviously, realistically, we weren't going to get anything anyway. But it weakens our hand in any type of negotiation going forward.
Yeah. It's stupid, and we keep doing it. And I don't see, for all the haters that Ali Koç gets, I never see Fenerbahçe do that kind of stuff. Why is it always us? Why, I feel like we're the only one who does this all the time. Why are we constantly doing this?
Ali Koç chirps way too much in general, and still has the discipline to not do that type of shit. He still doesn't devalue his own assets, even though he runs his mouth about basically everything else, right? And that's a credit to him. And I think that's perhaps, right, people talk about his professionalism or his corporate experience or whatever it is, right? Like, that's where you kind of have to be able to draw the line and not run your mouth, because it's your own asset that you're devaluing.
Yeah, it's just the umpteenth Beşiktaş president that sticks his foot in his mouth and devalues their own assets, like you said. Like, they've done, like Fikret Orman did it too. Like, they all do it. They all. It's
I mean, ANC was probably one of the worst, but
yeah. I don't understand. I really don't understand. Like, what's the point? What can you possibly gain with it?
It's beyond me at this point, and it's the sort of classic definition of insanity, right? Where you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. Yeah. It's annoying. It's annoying. Let's do our lineup. Let's go.
Let's bring the lineup up on the screen here. For those of you watching along on Spotify or on YouTube, you can switch now.
Yeah, don't worry.
Look at the lineups. For the next,
and don't worry, we'll run you through it real quick. So, obviously, we'll start with our rivals again. Gztepe has become something of a thorn in our side this season. Although, to be fair, almost everyone can say that. But so yeah, in goal for them, 28-year-old Polish keeper Mateusz Lis, who was, again, pretty solid against us.
He was really good, Sinan. He had a lot of very important rushes out of
coming out of the goal, he was fantastic.
We didn't create a lot of chances in this game, but if he stays on his line, we probably score 3 or 4 goals in this match. It's his preemptive clearances coming out of his goal that prevents Rafa Silva from going through on goal at least 3 or 4 times. So it really, I mean, if not for the goalkeeper, I think we win this match pretty handily.
And I think you have to give credit to this manager of theirs, Stanimir Stolov. When you, or Stoilov, whatever. When you play with the 3-man back line, you kind of want a sweeper keeper who, if that line sort of presses up a little, who can come out and do that. So they've obviously done well scouting wise and got a keeper who is quite capable in that regard.
How old is he? 28?
28. Yeah, I'd take him. Are you kidding?
Mm-hmm.
I'd take him in a heartbeat. Anyway, Moving on to their back line, of course, in the middle, you've got, as we said earlier, Heliton, 29-year-old Brazilian, who at one point I thought, was it Semi who like shook him out of his boots and he got like hurt trying to like swing in the air at nothing?
I don't know, but there's a couple of these guys that were like flailing their arms around on every aerial duel, and
yeah, he was impetuous.
The ref, I didn't like this referee. I thought he was very. In Belgium, we say a thuisflater, which means essentially somebody who gives every 50-50, 55-45 call to the home side. And I really felt like he did this. Like, it was at a certain moment, there was a corner that he gave because the fans kicked up a fuss. And there were a couple of calls throughout the game where I found he was very reactionary to the crowd response.
I think the referee was shit. I think
he was terrible.
Don and Adam both could have been off.
Yeah.
Yes, he should have had 2 yellow cards, and he somehow had none, which is crazy.
But also, at the same time, I think, as much as I think Bokali and Don Erdogan could have been sent off, at the same time, I think we did get off with a potential penalty. The Svensson handball.
The Svensson
I don't recall
handball.
I don't recall it. Yeah, something.
If
someone wants to find that, I'll go through the rest of the lineup here.
I think it's quite ball to hand because his arm does kind of move up the way. So the referee, I just think, had a bad game in general.
Yeah, I didn't like his performance at all. Anyway, next to Heliton was Mputu, or Malcolm Bokele Mputu, 25-year-old Cameroonian central defender, who was also, they were pretty solid, but whatever. Then you had the masked man, Taha Altikardes, 21-year-old Turk. Up ahead of them.
He's very good.
He is. You can't really deny it.
No. I think
up ahead of them.
I think he's sold already, right? I think he got transferred, but like is staying with them until the end of the season or something. I want to say,
right?
If not, I think he should be on our list.
Yeah, no, he was solid. He was solid throughout the match for sure. In their midfield, of course, we've got a familiar name, David Tijanic, 27-year-old Slovenian. He's been in the Super League for a minute. He played next to the. He might have made my shit list, to be honest. 28-year-old Turk Doğan Erdoğan, who was an Austrian Turk, right? Didn't he go to Trabzon for a minute? But never really stood out at all. And he was not very good, but just dirty. He should have had 2 yellow cards.
Yeah.
That's my only thoughts on him. On the other hand, much more impressive was the 20-year-old Nigerian Anthony Dennis, who was all over the pitch. It's interesting they list him as being in the middle of their midfield. He is listed as a defensive midfielder, as a 6th, but you wouldn't have known that. I think he was everywhere. And then on their flanks, of course, İsmail Köybaşı, a name everyone should know, I suppose. And if you don't know, he's 35 years old, which is pretty wild. And then opposite him is Ogun Bayrak.
It's wild that he's not older, you mean?
yeah, exactly. How is he still doing things? And honestly, I feel like he's playing some of the best football I've ever seen him play, which is kind of wild.
It's not that strange, to be honest, because they've been playing 3-5-2, so he's playing in a much less defensive, demanding role. And I feel like his weakness when he played for us was always defensively.
Definitely his defense.
That's partially why I've always wanted a 3-man back line, because like it's so hard to find good fullbacks these days. Anyway, but I mean, you also have to then have a lot of other things in place, such as a good sweeper keeper like this Least fellow. I don't think Mert is suited for that role. Anyway, opposite.
Maybe not at this stage, no. Opposite
Ismail was Ogun Bayrak, 26-year-old Turk. Didn't really stand out to me, to be 100% honest. And then, of course, up top for them, they played with two forwards. 20-year-old Brazilian Emerson, next to, of course, 23-year-old Brazilian Romulo Cruz. Romulo? I don't know. He was solid.
A pretty quiet game for him, I thought. I mean, I think we neutralized him effectively.
Sorry, I didn't. Why did I just say he was solid? I was literally thinking in my brain that he didn't stand out, and then I just said he was solid. But yeah, I mean, he's been solid, I suppose. Maybe was what I was thinking.
Yeah, I feel like if
historically, but not really.
Yeah,
today.
but I feel like if we would have signed him in the summer, people would be pissed that if this was the other way around and this was the type of game he played. I feel like people will be like, oh, why did we pay, let's say, 10 million for this guy? He didn't do shit, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? But obviously,
yeah, for sure.
Young player. He's had so many phenomenal performances this season. He's a fantastic talent, but we managed to neutralize him for the most part. I felt I was constantly waiting for him to do something to completely play our defense out of bounds, and it just didn't happen. The moments, fortunately.
Are there any players on this roster of theirs that you would take?
Yeah, Romulo for sure. Maybe the goalkeeper.
He scored a hat-trick in the last game against us in the cup. Cool.
I would. I mean, the goalkeeper. I have to. I remember thinking in the previous meetings we had with them. Don't remember if he played in the first match, but at least the last one, I think in the cup, I thought it was a decent keeper. I remember a few times this season thinking, this looks like a good keeper, but I would lie if I'd be saying I've watched Gztepe more than five to six times this season. So if I haven't watched him enough to say this is definitely somebody I want to replace Mert or something, but he looks good, I'll put it that way. Other than that, Anthony Dennis is somebody that has stood out. I think.
The fact that he's only 20 is most certainly worth noting.
He's a good player. I think Evran highlighted him already earlier in the season as a really quality player, or even last season, I don't remember. And
they have that Kuryu Matsuki guy off the bench.
He's been on my list for a very long time.
He's
21.
Injured in the first game against us. He was really, really good up until that game. He was actually seen as their best player. Soli had a season-ending injury in the first game against.
Oh yeah, that one.
He was their best player. So the recruitment in centre midfield for Göztepe has been solid.
Yeah.
I mean their whole team seems to be pretty
Matsuki,
interesting.
if you guys remember, before we signed Al Musrati last season, I was saying we should sign this kid, and he was playing for FC Tokyo at the time. That was him. But yeah, there's lots of interesting talents there, man. Like they have a.
I like their project a lot.
Yeah, I think if you look at the Super League right now, I think they're the best run club in terms of recruitment. But
why that is?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they have.
We know
why. We know why. But yeah.
God damn it! It's so sad that we can't get our shit together in this country of 90 million or whatever the heck it is.
Let's pull the lineup up again when we start here.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Beşiktaş, obviously. So we had, of course, Mert Günok in goal, who was solid. I will give him credit for a pretty good game.
You can't blame him for the goal, right? That's like a wonder goal.
No. It is, and that. No, there really isn't much you can say. Like, how are you going to predict where a ball like that's going to go? Like, on the back line, of course, you had Emirhan Topçu and Gabriel Paulista, who I thought, again, really solid from both of them. Svensson and Masuaku also, I thought, quite solid. Hadziometovich, as we said, really grew into the match. I
Second
we
half,
all
he was okay.
hit on that. Ox and Jedson also pretty solid. So really, like, where it all comes apart, because of course Rafa Silva, who is sort of our false nine as a striker, was fantastic. Should have had 2 goals, if not for being like a couple inches offside on the second. And so where it all happens is with Rashica and Mustafa Hekimoğlu. And of course, Mustafa Hekimoğlu was really good in terms of his effort. He gets an E for effort. But not much in terms of end product. And of course, the Rashica thing has become something of a curse. And I don't know what Kenny's doing in training, or if he's not doing anything. If he's fooling around. Maybe he's goofing off. He's a kid, so that's not like out of the realm of possibility. And so maybe this is Ole being like, show out in training and earn your spot, whatever it is. But I'd sure as hell like to see him playing over Rashica at this point, because for me, Rashica is what he is. We know what he is, right? And at this stage of the season, we need an inspiration to exceed our expectations as far as what we're doing right now. And so, that could be a spark, Kenny could provide. And B, I mean, I think we want to maybe make some money off Rashica if we can, or at least offload him somehow if possible. You've mentioned the problem of his salary con before, which is one thing. But, if he keeps putting up assists and, if he gets numbers, which is in a sense an argument for playing him, maybe you could actually fool someone into...
You know what? Right now, I'm telling myself, or like almost hoping, it's like Solskjaer is just playing all these misfits to offload them in the summer. He's just trying to give them all minutes so we can offload them. There's been, we say Amir grew into the match, but, and then you mentioned earlier that you thought the midfield was solid, but I think if anything it was solid. Like, I think the one of the biggest issues outside of Rashica, just not having much of an impact, honestly, that midfield doesn't work. It just doesn't. We can't dominate games. It's not like they played bad individually, but it doesn't function. Like, it doesn't make any sense, the midfield. There's nobody there that dictates the game. There's nobody to retain possession within the team. Amir in the first half, I thought was really bad because he's there, you would think, to win balls, to keep a little bit of calm into the team, retain the ball when you're under pressure a little bit, and just say, hey guys, calm down. That's what you want from your six. You want a little bit of maturity and all that kind of stuff. And I felt like in the first half, he kept losing duels. He didn't retain the possession. He didn't recover the ball. Second half, he improved a little bit. But like, all in all, once again, for me, Amir just shows that when he came from Konya, at Konya he was a really big, important player. He did really well at Konya. When he first came to us, it became clear pretty quickly that step was too high for him. The step from Konya Sport to Beşiktaş was too much. But he was still, you could see there's a decent player in there. And to me, I always kind of felt like he was the type, if he had a Turkish passport, he'd be a fantastic squad player. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a Turkish passport. But at this point, ever since the injury, and also the times I watched him play at Rizas, I feel like there's a husk of the player he once was. And at this point, he is nowhere near good enough to even be a squad player for Beşiktaş. And that's just the sad truth. And I feel like right now, and I saw this opinion, I think a lot of people share this opinion, a lot of the players that are playing right now and that are on the squad, they are all not just mentally damaged, but like, for example, Tayyip Talha. He's a player that we once all had very high hopes for, but he has completely fallen off after his injury. Amir is the same way. Ox is somebody that's on in the twilight of his career. Chiro is somebody in the twilight of his career. There's too many players on that squad that are past their best, whether it's because of injury, whether it's because of age, but there's way too many players like that. Like even Masuaku, who I think we can all agree on has stepped it up under Solskjaer and has been decent. He is also past his prime. He's past his best. Physically, he can't do what he could do a couple of years ago. And that is the problem from our squad. And I think Kartal was talking about this in the summer already. Yeah. Our squad is too old.
I was going to say, you kind of just... He could say, I told you so.
He could. And it's not just age, though. It's also that... Sorry to cut you off, Kartal, but it's not just the age. It's not just the squad is too old. It's also a lot of players who, like, for example, Tayyip Talha. He's nowhere near too old. He's 24 years old. But because of his injury... he is like a 33-year-old player that's past it. Amir is the same way. And that's the main issue with our squad, other than we are missing key pivotal roles that we like, a really good striker and a good creator on the wing and whatever. We also have too many players like that who are completely past it, whether it's because of age or injuries. Now I'm gonna hand the microphone over to you, Kato.
Nah, I'm not going to say I think so, guys. I'm not that nasty, man. But I would like to thank Can for obviously giving the call back to what I said in the summer. Obviously, I didn't want this to happen. I really wanted for this year to be a great year for us, and we actually all believed at the start that it could be, but it's turned into another fucking disaster. I'm upset I was right about that. Like, that's obviously, it does say that maybe I kind of know a wee bit what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say I'm some football guru or anything like that, but I do know what I'm talking about, at least a small bit, a little bit. But I'm not happy I was right about that. I wish I wasn't. I wish this team could have had a great season and had the gas to keep on going, and that we could have seen a great comeback story for some of these players that you're talking about that are past their best, but unfortunately it's not happened. I mean, I think a very, very important thing that we need to do is we need to get a good core of players that are aged between 23 and 28, I think that's the first thing we need to do. Build a good core.
More importantly,
look at Gztepe, man. They've done something like even more ambitious, right? It's like between 20 and 24 even.
Yeah. But even more importantly, I mean, like, you can get, like, you don't just have to look at the age. Like I just said, like, you can get younger players. But if they've suffered like an ACL injury and they used to be really good, but now they're not anymore, you know, that's also not the type. That's also players you want to shy away from.
For example, for some reason, Serdar Adil's got a fucking fetish for me. Like, I don't understand why he always talks about him. The guy's
who, sorry?
Ansufati.
Yeah.
That guy's injury prone his full career, and Serdar Adil talks about him all the time.
Funny.
It's almost like, I don't know. It's like they do it on purpose. Like they want to. I don't know. It's so frustrating, really, because you don't want to see players like that mentioned and linked with the club. I mean, obviously Ansufati is a tremendous talent. And you know what? If we would have a squad full of physically very athletic guys, players that barely, you know, if we would have a squad full of Rafa Silvas, full of players that rarely get injured, that play 50 games every season, then you could say, you know what, Ansufati, okay, he's injury prone, but he's all like, just 2 or 3 years ago, he was legit like one of the biggest talents in the world. We are gonna take a punt on this guy because he's just so talented. We can't not take the chance. Like, it's just the risk reward is just too big. The potential reward compared to the risk. But when you already have like a squad that's not necessarily super injury prone, but although we have a good honestly our squad is quite injury prone, honestly, but. Not just that, but you also have players coming off of really bad injuries that just haven't been able to get back to their former level. Like, you need to stay away from these types of players. Like, you can't take those risks. And especially when you're in, you know, Solskjaer reminds us constantly. Adal reminds us constantly. Beşiktaş do not have the luxury to make bad transfers. Then you're gonna talk about Ansufati. Like, that's a super risky transfer, and they keep reminding us Beşiktaş don't have the luxury to take those types of risks, and then they're gonna, then it doesn't make sense. It's like contradicting yourself completely.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest hope for this summer is they just let Edward Graff and Ole sit down together and build this team. Obviously, players are going to have to go for players to come in, so hopefully we can let go of enough players, like move on enough players, and hopefully let these guys do transfers freely. Hopefully there's no one in the board saying, I want to do a show. Like, Hussein Yücel was done last year. Obviously, Rafa Silva was a great transfer, but the other two, for example, Paulista and Immobile, it turned out to be disasters for obviously two different reasons, but nonetheless disasters.
I think maybe that's harsh on Paulista, but for sure.
I mean, he's been out for
season, Sinan. So how's it not a disaster?
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, yeah. I feel like Immobile, like when you compare, if Immobile is a disaster, Paulista is something slightly different. Is all I would say. But you're right. Like it doesn't mean it's a good transfer.
I would argue Paulista is worse, Sinan, because he's on a 3-year guaranteed contract. At least Immobile is going, only has a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
I mean,
3 years is wild. I didn't even know that he was on a 3-year contract. That's great.
So that's just my biggest hope, man. That Graf and Ole are given the freedom to do their jobs, bring in the players that they want to bring in, that they believe that not only can do a good job for Beşiktaş in the coming season, but in the next couple of seasons after that. And hopefully they're able to do that, and hopefully within a couple of years we're competitive again. I'm not under the delusion that we're going to be competitive, like winning the title next season. I don't think that's possible. I think we at least need a full season next season, and then maybe the year after, if everything goes well and things are falling into place, you could maybe start thinking about the year after that. But even if that's a stretch, man, I think we're probably realistically a few years away from us winning another title, to be honest.
Maybe from winning a title, but I think you can be competitive in the relative because of how poorly the other two clubs are being run as well. Because both of them, their transfer policies aren't good. They just have a lot more money, and they sign a lot of individually good players, but like a lot of their transfers bomb. They don't have a good plan behind their transfer policies. Because of that, I think you can be competitive. Because quite frankly, I know both of them are winning the majority of their games. But if we weren't complete and utter dog shit this season, I think we'd be having a good season and we'd be competitive. If we would just be playing, that's a weird.
That's a funny thing to say.
Yeah, but
if we weren't complete dog shit, we'd be.
No,
yeah.
but I feel like there's been times in the past where we finished in third, but we were, I don't know, I feel like.
I know what you mean.
I'm trying to think of a season where we played decently but finished in third place. It just feels like we are now still relatively competitive for European spots at least, but we are playing so bad, so bad. If we would,
we should probably make a note here. Let's do some actual statistical work here. So we had 59 points last season, right? And we have 51 points now.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
You need to remember, Sinan, those 2 more games last season.
Didn't we have 54 last season?
I think we had 59, but and that's well. So look, I think we're gonna have more than 59 points this season.
So we had 56 points, 56 points. But you need to remember there was 2 more games played last season.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be better. Statistically, points wise, it's a better season.
Are we? Because at the ratio we're going right now.
I think we will give 5 more points. That would be terrible. Because we have what? We have 6 more games? 8 more games?
6.
What do we have?
We have, in theory, 2 easy matches coming up. But that's theoretical. But we have Hatay at home on Friday.
6 more matches.
And they're 15 points below the cutoff of relegation. So they're dead in the water, essentially. And then we have Adana in the next home game. And then sandwiched between those 2 easy matches, and I'm air quoting here, sandwiching between those 2 easy matches, we have Fenerbahçe away. But Fenerbahçe today dropped 2 points against Kayseri, so their title dreams are essentially dead. So there's a possibility that they are, going to be deflated in that match. Plus, beforehand, I would have said we'll probably lose the 2 easy matches and beat Fener. So, that's just kind of the season we're in right now. But
so we need 5 points to match last season's
no, we need
output.
7, right?
No,
7 points.
7 points. 7.
7 points. Sorry, we have 49. Wow, I'm just
Yeah.
totally making numbers up.
2 less teams, so you could argue that we don't actually need the whole 7 points.
So there's 18 points available, right? Out of in total. And we need to get 7 of them just to equal last season. And that's not including the fact, which Kartal mentions, which is that there were 2 extra matches last season as well, for which we didn't get, So, yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be some statistical improvement that's likely, I mean, barring a total meltdown in these last 6 matches.
Well, we have already been in a complete and utter meltdown for the last... Where have you been the last couple of weeks now? We are in a complete meltdown right now. I think it's complete, like...
I mean, I guess it was that you got to be that Galatasaray match sandwiched in there, kind of. Give you a false sense of...
Sinan's right in the fact that we're doing better this season, because this season, currently, we have 1.63 points per game. Last year, we had a terrible 1.47 points per game. So if we continue in this...
I think other than the cup win last season, like this season has been much better. There's been many more highlights. We have 2 derby wins. We have a couple of very nice European wins. We have a Super Cup. We have had a better season than last season. I think last season was more depressing, but this season is also pretty depressing, especially the last couple of weeks. Because we kind of were in like dead in the water territory, and then Ole came in and honestly kind of turned things around, and we were in an upward trajectory. The momentum was going up, and then just as soon as that first setback hits. Or maybe a couple of setbacks, whatever, because, I mean, the Twente match was a setback as well, and that didn't completely derail the momentum. But I don't know exactly, I can't really pinpoint it right now from the top of my head when and how it happened. But, was it the Antep game? Like, just the whole...
I remember you thinking that, Kartal, back in the day.
No,
Kartal is the...
No, he means the second
one.
Oh,
the second one. Oh, the more recent one. Yeah.
That was the first loss, and then we didn't win 2 games in a row. Then we beat Galatasaray, and then we've not won since.
Yeah, and that's just that mental
in a way,
feebleness
I feel
is just
like
rearing its ugly head again.
For me, it's these last 3 matches that have been especially dispiriting, because Samson basically opened a door for us. It was just like, go ahead, stroll your way into 3rd place, even though you've been pretty shit all year. And it was like, aha, like we've just beat Galatasaray, we're going to do this. Like, we've kind of salvaged this thing. And then somehow we fell right off the rails yet again. And what's crazy is that, like, when you go to, it's somehow gotten progressively worse until yesterday. Somehow it felt like it just never felt like we were going to score, right? Like the glaring problem that we've had all season seemed worse than ever. Yes, I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it was pretty bad yesterday, right? Like, it felt like we needed Rafa Silva magic, or there was really nothing that was going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, that's what it kind of feels like. That's what it's been like for the majority of the season, quite honestly. Like, it's Rafa Silva needs to have a good. If Rafa has a good day and is able to pull the strings. I mean, it's kind of yesterday. I think he had a decent day. He scored a great goal. He had a couple of good runs. Wasn't brilliant by any stretch of the imagination, but. Yeah, there's just too much missing.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm trying to look at these last matches where we're gonna get our results. So obviously there's Hatay. Fener is like, who knows? That's chaos. Adana Demir. That's one of those games where you better get points, like, considering where they are right now. But
I mean, Hatay and Adana Demir, both teams that you should be getting 3 points against, right? But like the way we're playing right now,
Can you guarantee anything?
I mean,
and then you have Alanya, who are scrappy and probably
isn't Adana until, like, do they have another win? other than our match? Do they have another?
Yeah, they have 2 wins.
They have 2 wins.
They're
Okay.
2-4 and 24.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We managed to lose to them when they had 0 wins.
Oh, dude, and Alanyaspor's in the relegation zone now too. So we have 3 relegation zone scrappers. Although to be fair, they're trying to fight their way out.
Yeah, Alanya.
They have something to fight for. Although it's getting tough. They're 3 points back. Although no, they have a couple games in hand actually. They're actually pretty safely. I mean, not safely. They've got to get those results. Yeah, they're gonna have a lot to play for. So Alanya might be the toughest match as far as like playing a team that really has everything to play for.
I feel like we play like a team that's like bottom of the table and that are already relegated. Like that's how our players almost.
Or worse, we play like a team that's like in like 11th place and it's like locked into mid-table mediocrity.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
Like there's just nothing to play for, you know? Like that's not even pride, you know?
That's the body language. I feel like the thing is like
And so then we have Rize and Bodrum, which are both. So Bodrum is down there. They're gonna. Oh my God, we're literally playing all of the relegation sides except for Sivas, which.
Yeah, and Bodrum's gonna kick our ass for sure because they've been on a fantastic run. Let's have a look at these statistics of these games of the game, guys, because I wanna get into.
And then we'll do.
I want to get into
comments.
Ole and that kind of stuff because
Sure.
his name is being questioned more and more.
Oh, people need to shut up with that. All right. Possession went in our favor, which actually surprises me to some extent. 56-44. They had a higher XG, 0.85 to our 0.67. They had 16 shots versus our 7. They had 7 on target versus our 2. They had 2 big chances and they missed both of them. We had 2 big chances and we missed one of them. What was the big chance that we missed?
Brox.
Right. Wait, what?
Yeah, for
which
Ox.
one?
Second
Ox
half.
Box in the second half.
Yeah. Goalkeeper saved. Yeah. There's a big chance. Yeah.
Oh, but I guess wasn't that sort of from an angle?
That's from an angle, but it was
Maybe.
a good chance.
Was a good. I need to see that. Anyhow, we completed 309 passes. How are there so few passes? Like, what the hell was everyone doing on the pitch out there? We had 309 passes, completing them at a 75% rate. They had only 225 passes, completed at a 72% rate. So I guess people were just like running around. There was not a lot of.
I don't know.
That's wild. I've never seen
It was
that before.
not. It was not a good football match. It was not good.
Like we've had more passes in one match, like combined of these two, than this is wild. Yeah. Anyhow, they committed 12 fouls. You could have added 2 more to Doan, at least, and 10 committed by us. They were offsides 5 times. We were offsides twice. They had 5 corners. We had 3. So I mean, these stats are all over the place. They don't really tell any sort of story, except for the fact that neither side even had 1 XG, which is probably all you really need to know about this match.
I think
it was a
Gztepe's
terrible match.
goal-
Can we all agree about that? Like, this was a snooze fest.
It's not a good match. And I think Gztepe's goal was probably like 0.02 XG. So like the majority of their XG was created from stuff that wasn't actually converted. But it was a very chance lacking match. Like both teams didn't really create much.
Göztepe had one chance where like you thought, how did they not score? Like Mac made like a double save, and then they had a third shot, and then the guy somehow hit it wide. It was crazy. Like God saved us there, man. But other than that, they didn't really have anything. I mean, like Romelu had a half chance on a header. But no, I think it was a really bad game, man. It was shit.
But you have to keep in mind as well, Gztepe's form isn't very good. Like they haven't won 7 matches, I think, or something.
Yeah, the only team they'd beaten in the last 7 games before this game was Beşiktaş.
Yeah, in the cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like they're not in a very good form either. So it's kind of.
I mean, it's a lot of middling results, but yeah, if you guys, I'll quickly mention their results if you want. So their big win in the cup against Kasımpaşa was 5-0, and since then they've drawn against Samsun 2-2, lost against Sivas 3-1, drew against Eyüp 1-1. I mean, again, all pretty good competition. Drew Trabzon 1-1. Beat us 1-3. Drew Gaziantep 1-1. Lost to Konya 1-0. And then drew us 1-1. So it's just a lot of draws against pretty good competition, but not quite doing enough to get those results they need.
They also missed Romulo for a long time because he was out injured for I think 2 months or something, and he's only been back for a couple of weeks, I think, and he's obviously pretty pivotal for them. Let's get to these duels and cards, Kata.
In terms of the duels, we won 53% of them, so 66 to 59 in favour of us. Ground duels, we won 40 of them to their 34. We won 54%. Aerial duels, 26 to 25 in favour of us, so 51 to 49%. Successful dribbles, we had 9 successful dribbles, which was at a success rate of 41%. They had 6 successful dribbles, which was at a success rate of 46%. In terms of the cards, 3 yellow cards for them. They should have way more, and then 1 for us. It was definitely a game where the referee chose to keep his cards in his pocket, maybe too much.
Yeah, I don't even remember them getting cards. Honestly, I'm surprised they ended up getting 3 cards, but there was a lot of. Very early on in the game, I feel like the referee immediately kind of set the tone where it's I'm going to keep my cards in my pocket. And Gztepe were allowed to do a lot of stuff that I think probably in a normal Super League game would have gotten booked for. And yeah, I mean, I don't think the referee cost us the win here. I think we cost ourselves the win. But definitely not a, like I said, he was, like we say in Dutch, tasflater. He was very much favoring the home side. He was very reactionary to the crowd, and very influenced. But this was I think a young referee. First time I've seen him, I think. So, maybe, I don't know how old he was, but maybe he was, it's a great atmosphere in the Göztepe XL Stadium. So maybe it got to him a little bit. I don't know. But let's talk about.
They did sell out. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, let's talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, guys, because.
You want to do some comments first?
No, I want to get to Ole first, and then I want to get maybe some comments on that as well from the chat if people are watching. So, over the last couple of weeks, pressure definitely has been mounting a little bit on Ole, and we've talked a little bit about it. I don't think it's very fair because. Obviously he didn't build this team. This team was already in a very downward spiral. And then there were comments from former players. Ozan Özyakup, for example, he was asked about Ole. He said, well, he needs time, but I don't think he's the man to take Beşiktaş forward. Ibrahim Üzülmez, also a former Beşiktaş player, of course, and former captain of the club. He said that he doesn't think Ole is the right man for the job. In the media, Günther Kilmanay, most prevalent probably, he's been criticizing Ole in his columns. I want to say Hürriyet. He's been criticizing Ole, saying he's not the man for the job. Clearly lobbying for a Turkish coach. And you know what? I mean, personally, I think Beşiktaş should stay the course 100%. I think one of the few. I recently said to a Norwegian journalist that I think one of the few positives, or maybe the only positive about Beşiktaş right now, is Ole and the coaching staff and the project that Serdar Adalı seems to be building with Edward Graaf as the technical sporting director, whatever you want to call him, and then the staff being built, the professionalism there. To me, that is the only positive thing right now about Beşiktaş. But then, I mean, if you watch this match, I think this is the first time where you can really criticize Ole and where you can criticize his decisions. I mean, if you look at this match, he clearly he takes off Rashica in the second half, and he doesn't put a new winger on. We essentially play without a winger from the moment he takes Rashica off. Why doesn't he put Kenny on? Why does Kenny not get Why does he not start Kenny, for example? Like, those are questions I think needs, that fans are rightfully asking. Maybe there's valid reasons why Ole isn't playing him. Maybe he's trying to protect him, whatever. I don't know. Maybe there's reasons in training. But it's normal that fans are asking these questions. And up until recently, I had the impression that the pressure on Ole was mainly coming from media figures, whether it be former players or whether it be pundits. But after the match yesterday is the first time I really got the sense that the fans are starting to turn on Ole. Do you guys have the same impression?
According to Twitter, yes. Look, I want to do a little diatribe too while we're on the freaking subject here. No, look, there's always going to be a section of every fan base in every sport, frankly, and probably even beyond sports, maybe in politics. I'm not going to go there, but where like the laziest, quickest, fastest way to change something, right, is like, let's replace the coach. Yeah. And so people are always going to default to that. And there's always going to be people who are just like, I don't want to insult anyone, but do you think? Do you still think it's lazy? The trigger.
But do you think it's lazy when you see very questionable tactical choices being made? Beforehand, you start with Amir, for example. You bring in 2 new players in January. You don't give them chances. Then
I mean, look. Let me put it this way. I questioned replacing the Moose with Amir in the first place. So I definitely
but that wasn't Ole's call, right?
But exactly. But the reason that everyone sort of defended it was like, look, you've got to give him all the players at his disposal. Let him take a look at them, see what he thinks, right? And so I guess with that same logic in mind, he gave him a start. He saw him. We probably don't see much of that again, right? So look, he's doing what he's doing with you're supposed to have at least 22 footballers out there, right? You need 11 starters and 11 backups at the very least. And we have about 7 or 8 at this point for some reason. I don't know how you account for that.
If that.
Right? So he's been dealt a tough hand, and you got to give him credit for that. And you got to be patient. People wanted to give windows to people who didn't deserve windows. So many times in our club's history, this man certainly deserves a proper window, especially with the whole framework of professionalism at work now. You've got the scouts and the whole sort of team back there, which you want to see, and you want to see what they can do. I think everyone's happy with the notion that we're looking at prospects like Kenny and Elan. We need to see them play. And I think everyone wants to see them play. So that's something that's perhaps slightly annoying. But then, as you've said in the past too, Con, right? Maybe you're throwing these kids to the wolves at this stage, not just in terms of putting them in a sort of dysfunctional team where they're not getting the support that they need from other parts of the pitch, but even to the extent that, you have fans getting impatient and testy. And so then you have the capacity for them to be turning on players before they're really given, prime conditions for them to really be inserted into the squad, especially given their youth.
But then why does he choose for Mustafa? Right?
Well, I mean, in his defense, he's been around slightly longer. He's been wedded, slightly more. He's been with the club for a long time, so he's certainly more acclimated, kind of culturally or whatever it might be. But even by the standards of like the club's culture, and he's not that new to the if not the starting lineup, certainly to the
environment.
Yeah, to the environment, to the roster, right?
Do you understand that fans are? But do you understand that certain sections of the fans are starting?
Yes, of course. I want to see Kenny. I'd love to see this just be play all the kids. Let's see what we have, But again, right? He's got competing notions where he's got to be going for third as best he can, right? So I mean, I understand all of. I'm not too worked up about it, is what I'm saying. I don't know what's happening on the training pitch. I don't know what kind of other factors there are beyond the ones that we've already discussed. But I just, I don't like his subs much. I don't understand the whole João Mario thing. I still don't get that. He didn't even play in this last match.
I don't get it. He wins him back. He completely wins him back for the team, turns him around, turns the perception on him around, and then now it kind of feels like he's pulling the rug out from under him himself. It's a weird decision.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments, by the way, guys, on what side of the fence you are on. Are you on the we have to stay the course with Ole, or are you one of those people that perhaps is starting to question whether or not he is the man to take the club forward? Gata, let's hear your opinion on this.
Yeah, it's your turn, Carta.
I think Ole's making plenty of mistakes, but on the other hand, I think we should see the course. As Umar has pointed out in the comments, we've fired 6 or 7 managers in the last couple of years. Are we in a better place or not?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the managers that are the problem, which I think.
Yeah, they're not. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some of them were. But
I'm like, I don't think Gio was the problem either. I think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst could have continued as well. I don't think he was an issue either.
I mean, he could have continued, but then we would probably be even worse off than we are now. Because it's the squad that's dysfunctional, right?
Yeah. So I think he could
maybe timing wise, yeah.
I think Ole's making mistakes. Look, Ole is teaming with João Mario. I think has been atrocious as of late.
It's weird.
João Mario was the key player, I felt, alongside Rafa in the 6-game win streak. And then as soon as we lose a game, João Mario was the first one getting yanked all the time, and now he's cut completely.
Do you think that he's one of the... Because I saw a quote from Ole where he said that if you don't even bother to run back, then, then what are you doing here?
It could be. They're watching it more carefully than us.
Yeah. Maybe the goal we conceded, which goal was it we conceded? Was it against Kasımpaşa, or I don't even remember. No, it must... No, I think it was against Gztepe, maybe. I don't remember, but there was a certain goal we conceded where he was very, I think, upset that we conceded it because we just, switched off. It was that goal where Masu. Oh, it was against the Faisal Sarr, the first, not Faisal, the Yusuf Sarr goal, the first Yusuf Sarr goal. And I mean, I'm thinking now that maybe João Mario there was. I didn't notice it at the time, but maybe he was not defending or running back or something like that. Must have been something like that, right? Because otherwise, why cut him completely?
Yeah, I don't like that. I'd like to see Kenny get more minutes. Although I don't think he's blown any of us away, he's not looked fantastic. I think he deserves a chance. He
only gets garbage minutes though, Katal. He's got 45 minutes in the cup, scored a goal, and other than that, he's only gotten garbage minutes, right?
Yeah, so he deserves a chance to maybe start 2 or 3 games to see if he could be better than Ashika, which wouldn't be too hard. So that's another thing.
I'd argue he's been better than Rashica already in those garbage minutes.
Another thing we could say is like Elan surely could have got some minutes by now before he got injured. Obviously, he's injured just now. He's expected to be back within the next couple of weeks. I just think his subs in general aren't great. Like yesterday, he played for the draw. Let's not kid ourselves on. He brought off Ox and who else was it he brought off? Ox and Ashika, and he brought on Sari and Taitala. Yeah. Now that's playing for the draw. Taking off an 8 and a right mid for another number 8 and a centre back.
If he would have put on Kenny for Rashica and Sali for Ox, then you're saying maybe Ox is he doesn't usually finish matches anyway, doesn't have the tank for that anymore. Then you're doing a winger for a winger and an 8 for an 8. Then you can say he's still playing for the win. But
to the flip side of this, look, I've said the bad things. But I think Ole, especially, see whoever the coach was just now. We did see some light with Ole. We had a 6-game win streak, but I think as long as it wasn't like a Fernando Santos or whatever, any coach deserves needs the time because we've seen so many coaches come and go that we know for a fact it's not the coaches or the problem, it's this fucking team. But Ole, especially, see one thing I really love about this guy is he doesn't stick to the same thing.
Yeah.
He's not.
He's constantly.
I was just gonna
stuff.
say the thing you guys were just criticizing was, I mean, at least he wanted to try something else tactically because we've seen this side actually respond well to that 3-man back line that he said he was going for when he put Tayyip in.
It's not just that, Sinan. It's like I don't think, for example, like see Gio. I think Gio should have never got sacked and he could have stayed for the next few years. But I don't think Gio would have made the changes that Ole has. I don't think Gio takes Immobile out the top 11 and goes for a false 9 with Rafa. Yeah. I think Ole's got serious cojones, man, in that regard. As much as I criticise him
he's trying things. He's definitely trying things.
Brian on type in this game. At the same time, he's always trying different things, like the whole false 9 thing, and then he changed the midfield up by putting Amir in at the 6. He's trying different things to see to see if he can get a response out of the team by trying these different things. So I really think it's time now. I'm going to. Sinan says he doesn't want to be insulting, man. See if there's the fans out there that think the coach is the problem and this guy needs sacked. Like, have you not been watching this club over the last 4 years, 4 seasons since we last won the title in 2021? Coach after coach after coach, and apart from that first season, the only thing that hasn't changed is this squad. So clearly the squad's the issue. So if you think the coaches are the problem, man, I think there's something up with you, man. Like your brain's not fully functioning.
But I mean, Cattle, that's the definition of insanity, right? Trying the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. And that is exactly what we are doing, right? Constantly changing the coach. But we are still, for the most part, with the same skeleton of the squad. Like the squad has not changed all that much.
It's not.
Despite the fact that we have
not much at all
let go so many bad players or dead weight or whatever you want to call them. We've already cleaned house quite a bit. But the problem is every window we keep adding to the already dysfunctional squad. And I think it was Ole who talked about this recently. He said, look, individually, these aren't bad players. The problem is that this squad was built in a very weird way. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, the puzzle pieces don't fit. And we keep making those same mistakes over and over and over. We have a squad that is, I'm going to, for lack of better words, call it dysfunctional. And then you add pieces like Ante Rebic. You add pieces like Vincent Aboubakar. You add pieces like now Ciro Immobile. And like you keep trying to put band-aids on really big shotgun wounds, and the band-aids themselves aren't of the best quality to begin with. Like, Aboubakar a couple of years ago was a fantastic player, but now he isn't anymore. Ciro Immobile, we can say the same thing. Like, he's been going downhill for the last 2-3 years of his career. And that is what I was talking about earlier with, we have a lot of husks of players that once upon a time were good, but they are past their best, whether it's because of age, whether it's because of injury, it doesn't matter. The problem is the majority of our squad consists out of players that are past their primes. There's players like, for example, Jonas Svensson, who is on the wrong side of 30, but he is still a good, serviceable player. It is somebody you can keep in your squad.
Rafa Silva too.
Rafa Silva, same thing. We have a couple of those players that you can build on and who can form the experience of a newly built squad. The problem is, how many players do we have? Let's say we have 22 players. Probably 15 of those 22 players, in an ideal world, you cut them tomorrow and you replace them. And the problem is that that's not very realistic. And my issue with the not so much fans. I think fans being reactionary and fans not being completely able to separate their emotions from how they view things. I think that's normal. But I think people who are getting paid to do the job, like Güntekin and Onay, or also people who were in this world in the past, like Ibrahim Üzülmez and like Ozan Özyakup. And Ozan Özyakup, to be fair to him, he did say Ole needs time. He doesn't think he's the right man for the job, but he still thinks he needs time. So that's fair. I think that's fair. But Ibrahim Üzülmez, I think that's less fair. Because the problem is, for me, is it doesn't matter right now who you put in front of this group. If you put them in front of this group, you're going to get the same or worse results. It's not going to go any better than it is right now. We have seen it with Şenol Güneş, Rizas Çalınbay, Fernando Santos, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, Serdar Topraktepe, Burak Yilmaz. We have seen so many different people try their hands that it's just impossible. It's not possible right now. The only solution is a really, really, really big summer cleaning. And whether that's possible, I don't think it is. But Serdar Adalet wanted this job. So if he half-asses it, yeah. And also, I would like to say on the record, I think if Ole gets sacked before the summer, I think Serdar Adalet needs to resign. If because to me, that says, okay, I failed as a president because he was my project. I was building my project around him. He was my choice. If you are gonna now react to fan pressure, media pressure, and you're gonna sack this man before he's gotten a fair chance, because just to be clear, like, this is not a fair chance what he has had so far. The job he has been given, like, you need to, like Sinan said, he needs to get not just one window. I think he needs to get multiple windows, and this past January does not count.
He should be given it at least until like May 2026. See out that initial 1.5 year contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, I mean, it all depends, like, as well on what are they gonna do in the summer. But I think if you fail to rebuild this squad, then regardless of what, then it's not on Ole, right? Like, it's not Ole's job to rebuild the squad. I mean, obviously it's his job to rebuild it when he's given the tools. But if you as a board, as a president, are unable to clear out the majority of dead weight and aren't able to bring in 8-9 new players, of which at least 4 to 5 starting quality players that are the right profile, and then on top of that 4 to 5 good squad depth players, if you're not able to do that this summer, I know it's a tall ask, it's a lot to ask, but I think if you're not able to do it, then you cannot hold the coach responsible for failing because you failed as a president. And I think if Ole is going to get fired before that would be an absolute travesty, and Adalet should resign instantly himself. He won't, but he should. But also, I mean, I think if you give him the summer and then you don't back him with the right transfers, then it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, guys like Ibrahim Üzülmez right now and Güntekin Onay and all those people. Güntekin Onay, to me, it kind of strikes me like he knows very well that the chances of Beşiktaş rebuilding their squad in the summer are slim. Like, it's not very big, the chances that we're going to do a very good job at rebuilding that squad. So it's very easy for him to shout, oh, you know what? Ole Gunnar Solskjær, he's not the man for the job. It's super easy to shout that right now because at the moment, you probably have a 75% chance that that's going to be true, you know, or at least appear to be true, because if you don't rebuild that squad properly in the summer, then you're setting him up for failure. And then you, as the journalist, as the pundit, can go, oh, I told you so, guys. Look, I was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Look
right?
what I said. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I feel like a lot of these people are doing right now.
What I will say, Ken, is I think a full overhaul in the summer is unrealistic, right? But on the other hand, I think if Edward Graaf is left to do his job, I have no doubt that the players that we bring in will be of good quality and will suit what we want to do. If they let the guy do his job, that is.
Hope so. Yeah. And then, okay, guys, so Ole is kind of now starting to being questioned by the fans. Already was being questioned by pundits. But that also brings with it an extra danger, right? So right now, something that's heating up is Bodo Glimt's Patrick Berg. You know, he's the best player in the Norwegian league, according to many. He's been fantastic at Bodo Glimt for the last couple of years. Tried his hand at it in France, didn't work out for him. At Lens, I believe. But he's been fantastic for Bodo. He is somebody that we were already interested in January, but Bodo refused at the time. Bodo actually managed to knock out Lazio the other day in the Europa League, and Patrick Berg was asked about these not just rumors, because Serdar Adale actually commented on it and confirmed that we made an attempt for him and we want him. He was asked about it after the game, and he responded with, as you would expect, no comment. But according to my sources in Norway, that is quite telling that he says that. But now, of course, you're standing in a situation where I agree with you guys. I think we should 100% stay the course with Ole. I don't agree with some of the things he did in this match. I think he has made mistakes. The problem is, I think he is making mistakes, but almost on purpose. I think he needs to make mistakes, if that makes sense. Like, I think he needs to play Amir and see him for what he is. Like Sinan said, like, he needs to make that mistake. It's a mistake he needs to make. He needs to make mistakes to see how every player reacts. The only problem I have right now is that I want to see more of the new guys, and I want to see less of Rashica. Because we already know...
like, here's another thing. For example, right? I'd love to see Elan and Sally, but we are the ones who know, because we've been watching Sally for so long. We know about that inconsistency. We know about the roller coaster that is Sally Uchan. But so, in a way, like, Ole has to learn that himself, right? So he's probably seen him come in and put in a good shift or two and thought, okay, I can do that. And then now he's going to have to learn that that's really quite rare. And so, I mean, that's partly why you don't want to keep changing your manager every freaking 4 months. Like, you want to give your manager time to learn these things and then stick around to apply those lessons.
I'm going to give you a hot take. Sinan, I'm going to give you a hot take. I think if, as a coach, you are... Well, I think you rarely are 100% secure, but let's say you're super confident that the president is gonna stick with you and is going to not judge you for this period, and you're gonna get like a full window in January in the summer and bring in players you want, together with Graf and whatever. I think if you are super confident in that, I think then you are much less afraid to make mistakes. You're much more inclined to try new things, to experiment, which he is definitely doing, as Catalyst pointed out, and as you have also pointed out, he's definitely trying new things all the time, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. And maybe with that, he is, like I said, making mistakes on purpose, But the problem with that is that you still need to qualify for Europe next season, right? Like, if you don't, I think the fans are going to be very unforgiving, because you will be seen as a failure regardless. Even though when he came, we were, in 7th place or something? We weren't even in a European spot. I think if you give it out of your hands right now, it's probably still going to be rough.
Look, maybe that's a good segue to bring it back to the football for a minute. It's actually, I think, really important to note. So, Europe is by no means out of the question, and obviously, performance-wise, that's another thing. But we just went over our upcoming few matches. They're against theoretically weaker sides, so we should be able to get some points. Right now, we have a game in hand against Eyüpspor. So if we even get a draw, we're level with points on them for 4th place. If we win that game in hand, we jump up into 4th. If we do win that game we are 2 points behind Samsun. That's like set right now. But they're going to play again tomorrow. Tomorrow they play against Alanyaspor, who we've just talked about, right? They're desperate to win.
They're desperate, yeah.
But desperate, because they have a couple games in hand. And if they win those games in hand, they're out of the relegation zone. So Alanya's going to want to do everything to get those points. And then they've got Bodrum, who's also kind of in that same position. They've got Eyüp, who is going to be fighting for them, theoretically, for third.
Yeah.
Then Sivas, who's in that same relegation fight, that dog fight at the bottom. They've got Trabzon, who's theoretically scrapping their way into European spot. And then Kayseri 10. So, I mean, Samsun has the potential to drop some games. Look, we're not even out of third place, theoretically. We're 2 points behind them. I know it feels like we're kind of in the shitter, but it probably shouldn't to some extent. Which is to say, definitely keep staying tuned to the Black Eagles podcast, folks, at the very least. And like, follow, and subscribe. I don't know if you saw that comment. We got the little reminder there. Let's do some comments, speaking of...
Yeah. I'd also like to know, for the comments, guys, I just like to hear your opinions on Patrick Berg. And also for you guys, I kind of want your opinions on it, because I think, Kathleen, you said something along the lines of his destiny will be similar to Musrati, or something like that. Or
that's not my...
Is he a 6? He's an 8, right?
He's a 6.
He's a 6, yeah.
Is he?
That wasn't my opinion. That was just something I saw. The scout wankers right on. I don't think they're scout wankers, by the way. That's just what they're called. They're called
the Ottersbeer.
Yeah. So what they call the scout wankers on Twitter, they're saying that if you bring in Berg and put him in a midfield with Jedson and Rafa, that his destiny would be the same as Mizrahi. I don't know that. I've not watched Berg enough. I've only watched Patrick Berg play against Beşiktaş. I've not watched him at.
He's a lot more dynamic. I feel like Musrati is very one-dimensional, you know, and Patrick Berg is definitely not. He's a good long passer. He's more dynamic. He has good offensive impulses as well. I think he's a much more complete midfielder than Musrati is. But like Musrati is another one of those things, right? Like, I was quite confident Monaco were gonna sign him, but he's not in the squad even right now. Like this last match this weekend, he wasn't even in the squad for Monaco, and doesn't really look super promising that they're gonna end up signing him. So he's coming back potentially. So then you have another player that, at this point, I think you're at a point where, you know, by making the decision to loaning him out this January, I kind of feel like you've made the decision, okay, this guy has to go.
Yeah.
That's another headache for the summer then if Monaco decides not to sign him.
See, the worst part is, Kans, you know how we were going to loan him out to a Saudi team?
Yeah.
See that team that we're going to loan him out to, they're no longer in the relegation zone, even though they're dead last.
So Hussein Yushel's deal was better than...
Yeah, so it was Al-Fateh who were dead last in January when we were supposedly about to loan out Mizrahi to them with a obligation to buy if they stayed up. We all thought that was a terrible idea because they were rock bottom, but they've went from 18th to they went from 18th to 14th, so they've climbed.
Granted, though, maybe the player they brought in instead of Musrati has just been really, really good. Right?
Potentially.
Yeah, because maybe it wouldn't have been the same with Musrati there. I don't know. But
yeah, who knows, man?
Unless it's Muleka himself.
He plays for a different team.
It's a different team. But just look at at the time, you can't really. Could you say we could criticise Sardar? I don't think so, because at the time we all thought that was a terrible idea. But swords law, it's just worked out.
But I think the thing you could criticise is the decision to offload him to begin with. Like, what's the point? You know, bringing back Amir to offload Musrati, that's a downgrade, right? Like,
I agree, man, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I've been critical of so,
and
let's do some comments, guys, because we're gonna get fall behind.
Yeah, just pick out the good ones. Not that, you know, if there's any good ones that can spark some talking or some conversation.
By the way, so the Finnish kebab is watching in Belgium right now, Con. You should reach out to him.
Oh, you're watching in Belgium, Finnish kebab? Why do you
not the Swedish kebab?
Why didn't you text me, man? Where in Belgium are you? Let me know.
Sebastian had predicted that I was going to put Doan on the
shit
football
list.
terrorist list. The shit list is what we call it. For anyone who doesn't know, so that was like back in the days of Game of Thrones when Arya Stark had that list that she would like recite before she went to sleep. I had started making a list of names. I forgot the original entries. Maybe you remember some of the original ones, Khan. But
also, it's not based on Chris Jericho's list.
No, it was based on Arya Stark.
Gatal knows what I mean. I
don't know. You guys and your wrestling.
Hey, man, I know.
Since you guys are talking about wrestling, I'm going to expose myself. I'm in playoff gear.
I think Mario Vargas might be a closet wrestling fan because the other day I commented on Facebook on something wrestling related, and I noticed he liked it. So I think he must be in that same group or something.
I have my best test shirt for anyone who's worried about it. Don't worry, it's not Rashida, that's Rafa. Anyway, where were we? We have, but so the shit list was based on Arya Stark's hit list. I added the S. Sebastian said that he's now looking at the lineups again. It's really baffling how our squad does not easily win against theirs. I don't know. I feel like with nowadays Gztepe's got enough quality and they've played together long enough that I don't know that you can necessarily say that.
They have a lot of if you look at their squad, like there's a lot of maybe unfamiliar names, but that's because they're young and upcoming, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
Which is a strength in a way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's guys like İsmail Köybaşı there and Doğan, who aren't necessarily, they're not new names by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a lot of young, exciting talent there on Gztepe.
Sure.
So, and I mean, if you look at our lineup, like that's also one of the things, like people were very critical of the fact that we did go for that point in the end, in the second half. And, obviously, Beşiktaş, the status of the club, but right now, I said this in one of our group chats. I said we are only a big club in name only right now, because if you look at the squad and if you look at the team,
for sure,
we aren't playing like a big team, and I don't blame Ole for that. I think that's down to the players, because it's been a problem throughout, right? Like also the fact that we rise to the occasion in the big matches, like that's even something you could attribute to a small team mentality almost, because these smaller clubs, like they love to show up in the big games, but against teams of equal level or whatever, or weaker on theory, like it's harder. It's almost how we play right now, and I don't blame Ole for it at all. I think it's what we've been doing this for a while, predating Ole, and it's just difficult to get that out of this team. Yeah, no, there's like a loser's mentality that we're still trying to stamp out. And I think some of it you might have to cut out certain players fully. Like it's sort of part of who they are. Yeah. Anyway, I'll try to be sparing with the comments. Sorry, folks, if I cut your comment, it's because you were boring. No, I'm kidding. It's maybe we've already moved past that conversation or whatever. Umair with a nice compliment. If you compliment us, I'm gonna read it. So. There's that. He said, if the players put half the effort you guys put into these shows, we would be 3 points ahead in the title race. And then he said, Ansufati, close the club. Shit this team in the last couple of years, but we're the only club in Turkey that have a quality English podcast. That's right. Good luck to the still biggest club. The others. Some others have tried, but it seems to have fallen by the wayside. Sorry. It's time consuming, man. It's not just time consuming. No, sorry. That sounded super spiteful. No, I have no like those Lions Den guys. Good luck to them. They were really nice. They were really respectful. They reached out to us back in the day about how you guys have been so successful. How do we do that? It's hard, man. You got to just keep going. We went through some lean years, Khan and I, of speaking to like 4 people on Spotify. I mean, that's an exaggeration. That's an exaggeration, but like I said at the top of the show, right? Like the last couple of episodes, like we've barely gotten past 100 views on YouTube, and add whatever we have on audio. But like,
But there was a time when that was our max. That was like a good episode. Had
No, but
100
like,
views, so.
but like, in the last, in the last year since we've made the switch to YouTube, like, I think we're kind of grown accustomed to have close to 1,000 people watching or listening, or at least 500 to 1,000 people. But now it's the last couple of episodes, you can notice it's just like Cathal said, people. It's a chore. It's a chore to watch, let alone to then relive a very you already wasted 2 hours of your life on watching the game, let alone then you go and you listen to a 2-hour podcast about about it. So I don't blame people, but it's for us, of course, it's a shame because we do put a lot of time and effort into it, but can't blame people, man. Like,
saying people have curbed their enthusiasm, Con.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry
for that. Okay. Where else shall we go with these comments? Umar said that the loss to 10 men Gaziantep and the loss to 9 men Konya really fucked our momentum up. When I mentioned it back after Antep's loss, I was told to relax. Don't worry, it's just a bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it could have been, but obviously.
I told you so, there, Umar. What is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's also worth noting that we did then follow that up with Gladys that I win, which should have buoyed us, but. So
you know what? I'm surprised. You guys remember last year there was this guy in the chat, in the live chat, who came in and he started shitting on Simi, and we were all like, "No, man, no." I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised he hasn't been back to say I told you so. Because he could
count your chickens yet before they hatch. He may come back.
Yeah.
That guy
he's waiting for like the final bad performance where it's like, get him out of here.
That guy must have been from the future, man.
We should have hired that guy as our sporting director.
Yeah. That's funny. I'm going to pass on some of these comments, Umar, just because I'm going to move on to Nasser, who said, he said this on the WhatsApp already. It's clear that Ole doesn't trust the bench. And with Kenny, it's obvious he was brought in for the future. Not quite ready for regular minutes yet. If that's as clear as you say, then again, like I want to reiterate that I think the board maybe didn't quite do a good enough job this last window because we needed at least one winger who was ready to play yesterday, not even today.
No, but then what are you signing, right? Then you're maybe signing another.
Well, it's fine. It's fine. You need a prospect, but like we needed depth too for sure, and maybe you can take gambles there, but we definitely needed.
But then you're maybe looking
else.
Again at like first and foremost in January, it's so much harder to sign good players. So then you're probably looking
of course.
more.
No, yeah, that's fair. No, and that's what I mean. Yeah.
But then you're probably looking more at okay, we need to sign someone. We need to sign a winger. Well,
I mean, look, if you want to know what, if there is a criticism to level here, though, Con, it's like Graf had about like 2 weeks to work before the window closed, before they finally brought him in, right? Like, they needed to get that deal done.
Yeah, but supposedly he was working already since mid-December, right? So, right? But the thing is, I think, especially in the winter, the situation you're in, because of it, it's extra difficult to bring in a good player in January because obviously all seasons are in full flow. There's no expiring contracts in January, stuff like that. So you're probably forced more towards, if you want to bring in quote unquote short-term impact, then you're pushed more towards the Rebic types signings, the type of player who was good at one point, but is redundant at his club, and his club will be willing to let him go. So I get it. I get it why we didn't sign someone like that, because that would just be repeating the same mistake of the past, right? Like bringing in a player that's surplus at his club. Now what we did was we brought in 2 young players, granted that maybe aren't ready, but they are both players that were key players at their clubs.
No, again, I'm not at all critical of getting young prospects at all. I just
think
it's hard for me to believe that there's not a single player out there that we couldn't get from perhaps a smaller profile league, like a Norwegian or whatever, right? But like we so desperately needed someone who could create chances.
That's the thing. Like we tried, right, with Patrick Berg, for example, but obviously the season there is over, but they still had the Europa League. And they didn't want to let go of Berg. And like the thing with that the problem with that kind of stuff is, let's say we would have brought in Serginho. Serginho, I did an interview on him. He's also somebody that came into, what was his club? Viborg, I believe. Came into that club. It took a while for him to adjust there because he needed to learn, how to defend and all that kind of stuff. So the step for him would have been big too. I think he would have been in a similar situation as Kenny, where he maybe isn't 100% ready yet. Signing key players in January from clubs that are still in an active season, whether it's domestically or whether it's in Europe, it's very, very difficult. I mean, let alone it's difficult in January. If you look at how our squad is built, the majority of players we signed over the last 4 or 5 years have all been players that were surplus. None of them. I mean, Kathal, can you name a single guy that we signed over the last 2-3 years that was a key player at his club? That is
Rafa Silva.
Yeah, and what was his situation?
It was free agent, so
exactly.
Yep.
Right. So which
Felix Udokai was a starter last season for Augsburg, but again for him, only 1 year left on his deal. So I think that's why they wanted to make money on him.
Yeah, and we paid a premium, $5.5 million, right? I mean, granted, we paid a premium for Kenny Arroyo as well. But I'm not saying it's impossible, right? Because there's gonna be players who are on the last 6 months of their deal. Clubs want to still cash in, but it's extra difficult in January. I understand, kind of. I don't think signing Kenny and Elan was a bad thing. I think if you desperately wanted us to sign a good winger in January, we'd probably have ended up with a guy either 30 or above, or very close to 30, or somebody who's both that and Rebic, where he's like, he was good at one point, maybe he still is, but his club want rid of him for one way or another, and it's always...
You know what the move might have been, Khan? Maybe the 2025 version of Yusuf Simshek would have been Yusuf Sadi, the guy you were calling for.
Yeah, that's what.
But there has to be someone in Turkey domestically. Like, doesn't have to even be that young, but anyway.
And he's 27. Like, I mean, that would have been.
Exactly.
I would have signed him straight away, but I would have signed him like a year ago already, like 2 years. Like when Hassan Arat came in, I would have signed him. Because as soon as Adana Demir...
But didn't he go? He moved this window, didn't he?
Yeah, but as soon as it became clear that Adana Demirspor weren't paying players anymore, and that they were going to either they would be forced to let players go out of their contracts, or they were going to let them go cheap. I think we should have signed Yusuf Sari alongside Jonas Svensson. I think even just adding Yusuf Sari to our current squad right now would give us options. Right? We wouldn't be forced to rely on Rashica all the time.
Yeah.
Guys, one thing I would say is I would have preferred us to have signed more players that are ready in January, and then perhaps sign Kenny and Elan in the summer. For example, see, I think Serginho would have been the ideal winger signing. I think he would. No guarantees it would make an instant impact, but I think there'd be a much higher chance that it would have compared to Kenny, because he's already in Europe and he's already a high contributor in Europe, and he's older as well. He's 23.
Yeah. 24 now even.
Yeah. So I think Serginho was the guy I was really hoping for.
Yeah, me
to
too.
be honest.
Super hot, especially when once I did that interview, and heard about the type of player he was. Like, that was like almost verbatim what we needed. Creative, big chance creation, somebody who loves to take on his direct opponent, blah blah blah blah, all that. But yeah, but I don't agree with you on the set on the part of we should have held off signing Kenny and Elan in the summer. I think if you want to sign these two guys, I think signing them in January is actually better because you're already giving them 6 months to adjust to the country.
Yeah.
So I
especially
think,
given
I mean,
Elan especially, right?
I hope in the long run it's gonna end up being a benefit to them that they already were given 6 months to adjust. And I really hope that they're going to end up exploding next season and be successful. But, time will tell, right?
Hopefully, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, Umer says, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst could have stayed for 2 years if we didn't have a chaotic board that was there in his time. Transfers were wrong and players were not getting paid in time. Sebastian says he totally agreed with Karto. Ole has been making mistakes, but this is short-term issues. In the long run, we need stability. So that seems to be the theme that most people agree with.
Yeah.
Nasser follows that up with these players clearly have a mentality issue too. Yeah. As soon as we concede or things don't go our way, they lose composure. Feels like a group of individuals rather than an actual team.
Yeah, it's been a chronic issue.
Which is sort of echoing what you said.
It's been like that for what? For 3 years? You know?
Yeah. To be fair, 2 years ago we did have a good run in the second half, but put it this way, for some people that maybe, like Nasser, for example, is a new Beşiktaş fan, out of the last 4 seasons, 3 of them have been a fucking disaster. And I don't think that's something that's ever happened in our history before.
And it's always the same thing as well, right, Kato? Like, mentality, like, we can't deal with adversity. We concede we go 1-0 up, and then we concede a fluky goal, and, like, the heads just drop. It's been, like, constantly that. Like, the Bodo Glimt game this season is a perfect example of that. We were playing very well, go a goal up, could have scored a second. By some wonder we don't because they have some heroic clearance off the line, and then we concede a fluke of a goal, and in a matter of 5 minutes they go up and over us because as soon as we concede, heads drop. All the good football from the previous 30 minutes is completely out the window. Everyone just loses their confidence. It's like somebody flips a switch. Like we're like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like Beşiktaş are so black and white
It's just the same. I mean, we have a couple of games where we play really good football in that 6-game win streak we had with Ole, but as soon as we lose 2-0 to Antep, it's all gone, apart from the Galatasaray game. And even in the Galatasaray game, I don't think we were brilliant, man. Like, we were better than them.
but even, I think in those matches, it's like you're going into them and you're almost expected to lose. So they don't really have anything to lose, if that makes sense. But as soon as you have a match where you're expected to win, like, for example, Adana Demirspor, it's like they can't handle it for some reason. They can't handle the favorite role. It's like if you look at it, all our matches this season where we have performed really, really well, in every single one of them, we've been the underdogs.
Yeah.
We can only get a result if we're the underdogs.
Yeah, apart from right at the start when we were killing it, but in general, you're right. That's been the theme.
Yeah, but the big results this season, there's the Super Cup win against Galatasaray, the away win against Lyon, the home game against Fenerbahçe, the home game against Galatasaray, the home game against Athletic Club. Like, those are the big results, right? Those 5 matches. Those are the...
I'd say the Lugano game as well, the second Lugano game.
Okay, the Lugano game. Yeah, but that, I mean, it's a team. But I was going to say that's a team we should be beating, but then they're much better coached than 90% of all teams in the Super League, and we lose to those teams all the time, like Adana Demirspor and stuff. So, yeah, you're right. That's probably the only exception to that rule, but it's, if we're not the underdogs, it's like we can't get a result.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm putting Sinan to sleep.
No. I'm just thinking. I mean, it actually made me think about something you guys were talking about earlier, and how Kartal was running that victory lap about age. I mean, it really does speak to the fact that to compete, you do need leaders, right? You do need some guys who are old enough to lead the squad.
It's all about
It's just a shame that we don't seem to have, like, Rafa Silva. He's like one of those quiet leader guys, right? He's not gonna like
leader.
grab someone by the shirt and like make him wake up.
Rafa is a brilliant footballer, but he's not a leader.
Yeah, Udokai could have some of that in him, but he's more. He's like too new.
If you look at this squad, I think the only player that I would say that probably has it in him
Paulista?
is Emirhan. Emirhan.
You think so?
I think Emirhan is the from
He's a little bit too much
Paulista, but like from the players that we can move forward to with Emirhan, I think is probably like a potential captain in the future. I think, but we are lacking.
I mean, I remember
leadership.
the way Udokai was getting all hyped up during the Lyon match, and I thought, man, this guy might have the heart to like be something. But
I think he could be a defensive leader. But the problem is, I think we need somebody to.
Yeah, you need a leader on each line, basically.
You
right?
need players that are willing, that are gonna step up when things get hard. Like for example, when we conceded that 1-1 yesterday against Gztepe, then you need someone like a Rafa Silva, for example, to then say, guys, no, come on, let's flip this game on its head again. Let's step up. But Rafa isn't that. That's not his personality. I don't think it really has much to do with age. I think a young player can do that as well. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you're more likely to find a leader in someone with experience. But you're right. I mean, you can find younger guys like Jetson. Jetson's already kind of a bit of a leader out there.
Jetson. Sorry, Katla, go ahead.
Anyway.
Yeah. Experience is important as well, but you can have like 2 or 3 guys in your top 11 that are 30 plus. But the issue is 7 of our starters are 30 plus, which is a disgrace.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna have 3 or 4 guys who are of that age, they should all be of that sort of leadership caliber, and you probably shouldn't have guys who are like maybes, who are at that age. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, you can have a 30-plus-year-old in every line, but like 3-4 is probably fine, but
7. We were talking about
7 is too much, for sure.
Yeah, and so it's about having the right guys in the right places around the pitch, really. And so in a way, like you kind of get the Immobile thing. It's a shame it didn't work out, obviously, but I mean, we Rafa Silva's not that guy in terms of being vocal, so. Yeah, we still actually kind of lack that.
Fantastic player, but that's like he has a lot of quality, but that's not one of his qualities. Being a leader.
Karchal will understand. He's like a Durant, right? Anyway,
I just feel like Rafa Silva is one of those guys. Like sometimes I even feel like when the going gets tough, he kind of hides a wee bit as well. We've talked about that in the past. So he's our best football player, but he's far from a leader, in my opinion.
Yeah, plus, I mean, it doesn't help, of course, that he's the one that everyone's looking towards, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't help, and he doesn't really get a lot of help from his teammates. I think the only one, like I said this in the past, I think the only player who steps up during the really difficult times, like in terms of offensiveness, right? Like obviously, I just mentioned Emirhan and so on, but I think like the player that always tries to step up, it's Jetson, but he doesn't really. Masuaku tries to force things, but I don't feel like he steps up. Like he doesn't step up, I think, because he just starts spamming aimless crosses. That's not stepping up, in my opinion.
He doesn't improve in those moments, but I'd say he definitely tries to take responsibility, which I think Rafa sometimes doesn't.
Yeah, Rafa doesn't. No, I don't think so. To me, Jetson's the only one that really does. I mean, there was one moment yesterday where Jetson almost scored a world-class goal. When he decides to go on a dribble and dribbles
that thing.
4 or 5 guys,
end, right?
and then his shot gets blocked. I mean, imagine if he scores that. That's insane. But that's one of the very few moments in the second half where we looked like, oh, maybe that and the Ox chance and the semi-shot.
Anyway, so Sebastian says I want him to get at least 1 transfer window so he can start building a decent squad. Obviously, we're talking about Ole. Umar says no money to give him decent options. Sebastian, we are stuck with huge contract waste men. We need a miracle to get rid of half these players on extortion amount. Mr. Positive strikes again. Nasser says when I look at that bench, I think we could make some moves. Let's see how it goes.
Maybe if
But,
the capital injection works out okay-ish, I don't think it's ever gonna end up on the high end of the spectrum. But like, if we can manage to get out of the bank debt, and if we can, on top of that, generate some extra, like, in an ideal world, we generate 240 million euros. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere near that. But if we can generate 100 million and pay off the loan, that would already do a lot. If we can generate 150 million and have like 50 million on top of the loan getting cleared.
See, I think this capital injection couldn't have came at a worse time. I think the team.
I know. Timing wise, it's
I went through.
But isn't that just Beşiktaş though, Kata? Like,
Yeah.
like
everything we do is talk about curb your enthusiasm.
That coup in 2016 couldn't have come at a worse time, right?
Yeah. Even that, talking about the Super app as well, like that was released when we were doing really bad as well. It's just these types of things, man. Like, there needs to be some sort of excitement at the club. I think for them to like generate.
It's not just that, Kata. This thing in particular, the state of the world right now, the world economic state, that is much worse in my opinion than whether we're on a winning streak or not. Because this is a question of people buying stock. And right now, people are looking at their stock portfolio and seeing red numbers all across the board.
But at the same time, is now not a great time to buy stock because it's always going to rebound at some point.
But not Beşiktaş stock.
Yeah, not Beşiktaş.
I mean, Kartal, it's also, I think people are hesitant because it's like you don't know where the bottom is, right? You have to wait till you hit, because if you buy now and it goes further down, you're even more screwed. Umer says, sorry, Sinan, even though I put my head in the sand, I can still see Rashica and Immobile alone taking 8 mil out of the club every year. We'll see about that, sir. I'd like to think we can get rid of Rashica. I think he's put up enough blank stats.
Oh, man.
Anyway, we'll see. That's my dream.
For me, Rashica is Mustafa Pekdemek, man. He's seeing out that contract.
Don't say that.
Yeah, that's Mustafa Pekdemek 2.0.
Nasser says, when I look... No, we already did that. I'm going to let some of these comments go. The board... So Nasser said the board just cherry-picked players, hoping it would all come together without any real planning or consideration for team cohesion.
Not this board.
Low-key, they should have... this is previous iterations. I suppose he probably means that. He says, low-key, they should have kept Musrati. He had a good partnership with Jetson when Ole joined. I'll leave that one for you and Kartal and you to discuss. Yeah, you agree? I know Kartal agrees.
I agree because I think you keep him and then you see if Ole can make it work. And you have 6 months to see if Ole can make it work. Now, if he comes back, if Monaco don't sign him, then you're fucked, kind of. Because now you're like already made the decision. We're not going to go forward with him, and now you're going to be left with having to offload him. Whereas if you would have kept him, maybe you would have been in a better position because maybe, you still come to the conclusion of we want something more. We want a more complete midfielder. We want somebody who isn't as one-dimensional as Musrati, but at least then there's the possibility that he still had a good 6 months. He put up some good stats, and then you can just sell him in the summer. Now I feel if I keep saying Roma because of AS, but if Monaco decide not to sign him, which it looks like right now, I think you're in a worse place to sell him than you would have been if you would have just kept him.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's dropped.
I fully agree. And to follow you up on that, Umer said if they were going to get 10 mil for Musrati, sure, sell him. If all we got was 1 mil with them not buying him in June, we fucked ourselves over. Yeah. Ole, by the way, Ole himself said he needs 2 or 3 transfer windows, which certainly looks like that's
true. Of course, because this squad is so poorly built that you need 2 to 3 windows to completely overhaul it. You cannot do it in one window unless you have ridiculous money to spend, and even then it's almost impossible because you're gonna have to offload players that aren't gonna want to be offloaded because they have really good contracts. So even if you have, let's say, 50 million to spend on new players, are you going to spend 20 million of that on buying out contracts and telling players to fuck off? Of course not. So realistically, you need 2 to 3 windows, because not only do you need
Which
to bring-
contracts? I mean, I thought we'd already basically gotten rid of the majority of the contracts that we'd have to buy out. Like,
Yeah, but
I honestly feel like most of the guys.
Rashica is an example.
Like, also, I mean,
Gabriel
Rashica,
Paulista, Ciro Immobile.
Paulista we're sort of stuck with, but he can be of use, I suppose, as long as he can be healthy.
This is what I was saying before.
No, Paulista's a terrible contract. I'm not going to defend that one.
We keep adding to the malaise. We keep adding to the headache. We already have a very poorly constructed squad, and then we keep adding.
You add more shit to the pile.
Yeah, exactly. You keep adding similar issues where even when we signed Paulista in the summer, we were all saying, okay, he's a good player, he's a good signer, potential leader for the back line, but a 3-year contract makes no sense. It's not you can't defend it. At most, it should have been a 2 + 1 year deal. At most, right?
Yeah.
And that's you commit yourself to 3 years. And that's just, that creates situations.
I think contracts that we're going to have to, but you could, if you would have to buy out probably to get rid of them. Immobile, Oxlade,
Cheeto's the obvious one, yeah. You think we'd have to buy out Ox, Kartal?
So Paulista, that's 3. Rashica.
I don't know if I put Ox on that list anymore at this point. I feel like he's proven that he can be of use to someone.
No.
You have to buy him out, really?
Dude, he's earning 3 million a year. Is he playing poorly?
No, I can see, but I can see a scenario where he'd like be loaned out somewhere, and we'd pay a portion of his contract until it expired or something like that.
But then you're still wasting money, right? That's the problem.
But you're getting him off the books, and you're getting someone to pay for a chunk of it. Like that's still
how
pretty
much are they
smart
gonna
business
pay? Like right now, if a championship side comes in for him, how much are they realistically gonna pay for him?
What's their average salary? Probably like 1.5 mil, 2 mil.
What?
I'd be okay with that. Anyway, I feel like Immobile for me is the one that stands out. I've already talked about my wishful thinking with Rashica, but perhaps that's too wishful. But beyond that, like, who else do we have to buy out?
£520,000 is the average wage in the championship in the 2024-2025 season, which is £10,000 per week. So let's say you can get a championship side willing to pay double that. So £1 million.
Like so yeah.
Then you're still left paying almost
you're still
$2
paying
million
for 2
out of pocket.
Well, yeah. Again, I'm not. But anyway, look, I'm not defending the contracts of like Ox of all people, which was like a Ceyhun Kazanji masterpiece, or the Paulista 3 years is obviously terrible. But like, I think when you look at a guy like Paulista being here, like he's pretty much locked in, right? Like we're not going to get rid of him. There's no reason to cut him because it's not like he's like bad enough that you do that.
He has expressed that he wants to play in Brazil still, and he wants to play for Corinthians. So I don't think it's impossible, but I don't know. It just depends on how badly, because I think I hope he understands, like, given his injury proneness, like if he sees out his contract at Beşiktaş, I don't know how realistic it is for him to still play in the Brasileiro. Because he'll be 37.
Given his injury history, right? He's got to view any opportunity to leave and go play in his home country or his boyhood club or whatever it might be.
So
as
I
like
think
his
we
last
need to
stop in his career.
We need to hope that after this season he's gonna be in a situation where he's like, you know what, I'll take a deal in Brazil. I'll take a lower wage, and this didn't work out. But Paulista does seem to me like somebody who genuinely felt really bad when he got injured because he wasn't giving the club what they paid for. Essentially,
he wants to contribute for sure.
I definitely think that.
I mean, to some extent, I think Cheeto probably does too, right? He's not like a bad guy.
No, I that's why I was surprised by his statement to Di Marzio that he wants to see out his contract or whatever. Maybe that's, I don't know.
Maybe it's genuine.
I don't. With his family moving back to Italy, I think he wants nothing more than just to go back to Italy. But a good offer.
I'm sure.
Offer needs to come, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so, I mean, Ural, I don't know if he's getting my back on this or what. He says it has to go how, though. Canceling contracts and paying it in full is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's, so we're, I mean, I think you have to look at, like, João Mario is another guy, right? Like, we're probably seeing that contract out, so you have to make use of him. You can't, that's what's made me a little bit annoyed with Ole's decisions of late. You know, he's actually made use of him. But hopefully he'll get more playing time.
Yeah, he made use of him and made him actually, for a while there, I mean, he was playing really well, and now he's completely dropped him again, so I don't really understand what he's trying to achieve with that.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know. That's annoying. Where were we? People like Ibrahim, so Umer says, people like Ibrahim Uzulmez having the audacity to speak about others' managerial jobs while he himself was absolute ass is hilarious. I don't care if he played for us, we don't need a child of Beşiktaş. Samson and Ayub both have tough games, maybe tougher than our schedule even. I mean, technically, Umer, on paper, we have a pretty good schedule besides Fener, but you never know how that's going to go.
Yeah.
With all the relegation sides.
Try to lose the rest of the games. I'll draw.
Yeah, I mean, they technically do have, like, Samson's schedule was objectively harder than ours, but we'll see.
Did you guys hear what I said there? I said...
No, I couldn't.
We'll beat Fenerbahce and then we'll lose or draw the rest of the games.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. And then Umer said, the semi-dad or whatever. Carlito, good to see you, man. He said, the argument that Kenny is not ready is getting thinner and thinner by the week. There is ample opportunity to have a go. He's not that young, that inexperienced to have a go. And furthermore, it's not like Rashica is taking the plaudits here, right? And like earning
exactly.
all those minutes.
If Rashica was playing well and if other players were playing well, but like that's the only thing I can think of is that he doesn't want to burn the new signings. And that he doesn't want to, like, because what you said earlier, Sinan, like, obviously Mustafa has been at the club his entire professional career and, like, 5-6 years or whatever in the academy. So he's been there for a long time. He knows the club culture, all that kind of stuff. It's not the same 100%. And I think with Mustafa as well, like, I hope and I suspect that Ole sees him as a talent and a gem in the rough. But he sees him as somebody next season that probably needs to be loaned out and needs to get, further develop his skills elsewhere. Whereas I hope Elan and Kenny is somebody in Ole's eyes who's going to be important next season. And I feel, my wishful thinking is that he just doesn't want to risk burning them and... Because right now it feels like our squad is a batch of apples, and the mental issues this squad has had for years now, it's like a rotten apple, and the rot is spreading to the other apples, and I kind of feel like he doesn't want to put Elan and Kenny into the batch. He wants to keep them separate for now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to run the risk of them catching some of that rot. And he wants to begin with them in the summer with a bunch of new signings, so that inherent doubt that is in the team is not. Hopefully, he can get rid of it completely. And that's my hope. And that's the only logical explanation in my head to why he is limiting Kenny's playtime right now. Otherwise, I don't get it. Because I don't think you can say, oh, but Kenny is not ready, but then play the players he plays. Because the players he plays are not performing, other than Rafa, who has it in him. But like guys like Rashica, like there's no point in playing Rashica over Kenny unless you're trying to protect Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, so Umer said if Mustafa can start, Kenny can start, or minimum play 30 minutes. Nasser said Kenny should have joined, so this is sort of what Carter was saying. Kenny should have joined in the summer and had a proper preseason. Liga Pro's nowhere near as physical or intense as the Super League. 1 or 2 bad games here, and the fans, pundits are on you. So it makes sense they're protecting him early on, which is sort of what Khan was saying. So he's sort of backed up both of you there artfully. Umer, I don't mind if they go and sign Atiba on a 2-year contract, to be honest. Just have him lead these losers. These forwards we have made me miss Kyle Larin, for fuck's sake.
It's not like
Nasser,
was,
whatever happens this... Yeah, right. He had a pretty rough start too, yeah.
Yeah, and whenever he played as a striker, he was pretty inept. It was only when he played on the left that he was effective.
And it was Sergen who unlocked the Kyle Larin
art.
Let's
not go down to Gztepe
family man
there, because I feel like that's kind of what he's pushing for. Because I honestly, I saw, a mutual friend of ours recently said, I'm so done with these foreign coaches. But then I wondered to myself, like, which Turkish coach are you going to bring in then? Like, who are you going to bring in? If you're done with the foreign coaches, who's going to come? Which Turkish coach is going to turn, which Turkish coach?
I'm guessing that's a mutual friend of yours in Kartal. I don't have any friends who talk like that. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No,
but seriously, because Güntekin Onay is also pushing for a Turkish coach. But which Turkish coach is he pushing for? I don't get it. Who?
That's such stupid short-term.
I think what a mutual friend needs to remember that Şenol Güneş, Rizas Çalınbay, two of the best Turkish coaches of the last generation failed with this team.
Yeah.
And then you've got Serdar Topraktepe, who obviously doesn't have a pedigree as a coach, but also failed with this team. So, who says a Turkish coach is going to be any better? It's the team, man.
And look, we need stability. It's so glaringly obvious.
And remember, with the Turkish coaches, we were constantly asking in these episodes. We were asking each other, guys, could you tell what the plan was? What are we trying to do? All we were doing was like trying long balls. You can at least say that no matter how bad it is and how boring it is to watch Beşiktaş right now, and how much of a chore it is, even now you can tell. Like in this match against Gztepe, you could tell there was a plan. It maybe didn't come off well, but there was a plan. The plan was clearly after the 1-0 to try and hit them on the break, and we had a couple of dangerous opportunities. Unfortunately, players like Rashica, like I said before, his mantra is where attacks go to die, where promising counter-attacking opportunities go to die or whatever. But at least with Ole, I am yet to see a match where I'm thinking, under Ole, there's no plan. There's no plan at all. And I have had that feeling.
There was clearly a plan A and a B. I mean, he even reverted to a different tactic, which again, it's important to note that we responded well to that last time, so he's thinking, let me try that again. And I mean, to be honest, I had basically phased out by then. I don't really know how we played relatively. But I mean, statistically, we obviously got more of the possession. I wouldn't be surprised if that was later in the match. So, you like to see a coach who has plans and who's willing to sort of evolve on the fly.
With Şenol, even in that really good run, second half of the season, we were depending on individual brilliance. There wasn't a brilliant, there was one match which was the
Burak
and the Fenerbahçe derby, where there was a clear plan, where we had the whole long ball from Mert thing concept that worked, that came off well. But so many matches under Şenol Güneş, even then when we were winning matches, I remember us saying to each other, what's the plan? I can't tell. And
he's talking about 2 years ago, Sinan, not 18, 19.
Oh, so this was the when Abu.
Yeah, when Abubakar dominated.
Yeah, when Abubakar just started scoring worldies left and right. We went on a great run, but we weren't playing good.
Didn't lose a game for 6 months in that period.
Yeah, but we didn't play well though. We didn't play good football.
Yeah, we were shithousing results.
And that's the thing.
I mean, it'd be nice to see us shithouse some results now.
If we would have...
I mean, look, it's not like we're that far off. I mean, technically we are in a way. We're shithousing draws and stuff.
If we would have a striker right now that maybe isn't playing well, but will be scoring goals like that every other game, if Ciro was doing that, playing shit, but scoring those goals, we'd be winning matches right now. We wouldn't be playing great, but we'd be winning matches.
It's true, because our defense and our midfield are generally solid, especially our defense.
If Semi yesterday, that one shot he has, if he chases that in the top corner, then you come away with a 1-2 shithouse win. But we don't have that magic this season. You know?
Yeah. Nasser says, whatever happens this summer, they need to be ruthless. No room for sentiment. Anyone who doesn't fit the plan or the system has to go.
Yeah.
Umer Gunnar. Marcus Thuram earns 7 mil at Inter. We pay Immobile 6. They need to arrest Hussein Yücel for the plane photos alone.
Yeah, but Marcus Thuram is not coming to Beşiktaş for 7 million. You know?
No.
I mean, you know. Can't compare.
Exactly.
Can't compare.
Carlito. Oh, we already did that one. Umer. We're almost done, guys. So you guys might be late for you, huh? Umer says, unfortunately, it's not like Football Manager to Nasser, where you just put them on transfer list and they get sold. Nobody's paying these players half of what we currently pay them. I think it's criminal that it's April and we don't have a strong starting 7, let alone 11. I guess the question for you, Umer, is criminal on whose part? Who's committed the crime?
Yeah.
I think the obvious answer are previous boards and previous windows. I have posited that perhaps this board could have done just a little bit more in terms of giving us what we needed this last window. Obviously, they're working under strict parameters. For me, that means getting one winger or like someone in the midfield, someone who can create chances now, that obviously within the parameters of them not being too old or too, it can't be too desperate of a move. So obviously it's a tough thing to do, but I still wouldn't go so far as to say anyone committed a crime, because it was, like I said, tough, and you had to work within all those different.
I mean, there's been
limits.
like whoever signed Rashica, which was Ahmet Nurçebi and those nincompoops. Like that was a terrible decision. Not being able to find a replacement for Gezal, who was chronically injured. That was bad.
Yeah.
See,
I mean, what they done is they went and signed Rashica and expected Rashica to do what Gezal done, and he's not that player.
No.
And that was
and
clear. Anyone who watched him at Galatasaray knew that.
We'll still feel the consequences of that decision now.
I mean, dude, we are still playing Masuaku, who Valérien brought in as his left wing back when he wanted to play a 3-man back line. Like, we're fitting round pegs into square holes at this point. We're really.
That's something Nasser is saying as well. Like, you need to be ruthless. Anyone that doesn't fit. I agree with him that we need to be ruthless, but I don't want to be in a situation in the summer where we're signing players for a very specific, tactic or whatever, or like if you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to be. Yeah. I don't want to end up in a situation where we're gonna start signing players for a very specific play style, and then if all it doesn't work out and gets sacked, we bring in a new coach, and then he's left with a bunch of players that really don't fit what he wants to do. So I think it's really important that who we're gonna bring in the summer, either you need to make a very distinctive decision as a club. Look, we're gonna go forward. We've played 4-2-3-1 for years. That's what we're gonna stick to. Ole is gonna try and make that work, and we're gonna sign players that fit that, because whoever comes in, whether it's a year's time, 6 months, or it's 5 years time, we're gonna keep playing 4-2-3-1 or whatever, or a variation of it. And the players we are signing are gonna have to be players that can work in that sort of formation all the time. I don't think you need to, I don't think you want to be starting to sign wing backs when you're not going to play a 3-man back line like Galatasaray does, And you don't want to be bringing in defenders that are used to playing 3 at the back. And you don't want to be bringing in a striker that's used to playing with a second striker. Or maybe you do, because Rafa is kind of a second striker, whatever. I mean, you need to be. Our planning needs to be very, very important, not just so that it works for Ole, but also for a potential successor to Ole. We need to start signing players that make sense, not just based on, are they good or not? No, they also need to be
to fit in with what you're wanting to do, and that's why we've signed this director of professional football. So hopefully he can do that. A great example as well, like Al Musrati, when he was one of the when he was a highly regarded six at Braga. He was a 6 in a 4-3-3. But Besiktas always play 4-2-3-1. So being a 6 in a 4-2-3-1 and a 6 in a 4-3-3 is different. So you need to sign a 6 that's good at playing in that 4-2-3-1, for example.
Yeah.
That's another example.
And also, I mean, Al-Musrati was playing at a club that has very different ambitions to Besiktas, right? Like Braga is a team who are playing for a European spot. They're not playing for the championship. You know, that's also something. Okay, maybe Al-Musrati was a very highly rated and good player in that system, but is he a player that's necessarily going to work out in a club that wants to dominate? Because I think Musrati, if you look at it, he is his style of football essentially is most efficient or most effective if you're a transition club, right? If you're trying to quickly hit other teams and you want to utilize your wingers and you just bam, bam, bam, you know, send those long balls and hit them on the break. That's essentially what Al-Musrati is best at. And first and foremost, you need 2 good wingers, or at least 1 good winger, for him to be able to come off
the target,
well.
yeah.
And then, you know, Al-Musrati probably isn't necessarily somebody that you want to be in possession too much, because he's not somebody that holds onto the ball. He's not somebody that advances takes the ball, takes it up the pitch, advances it. He's just somebody that's quickly.
I mean, in that way, he could be a ideal partner for Jetson, right? Because that is Jetson's game. But you know, it's
but do we want to be a transition club? We don't, right? We want to be
the same time. Can Musrati is see if like you've got a team pinned in their own half. Like see when like that ball like. When it comes back out, let's say like they put in a challenge and it comes back out, Musrati is also an ideal guy to have to restart an attack when you've got the opposition stuck in the set. But I know what you mean on the other hand as well. I think Musrati could be good when you're dominating the games in that regard. Like, see,
he has been, but
yeah, I mean, you might be stuck with Musrati.
But his defensive work rate is an issue.
See if you look at the Samsung game where we had them pinned back.
Yeah, and then he comes off and it was gone.
When we had them pinned back, and when we were getting the second balls, passing the ball to Musrati was restarting the attacks, and then Cesar done the stupid thing and took him off. If he kept him on, we were going to break them for sure in that game.
Yeah.
So I think Musrati could be good in a team that's dominating games as well in the right system. The thing is, if you're going to have, maybe if you're going to keep him, maybe you need to switch to a 4-3-3 because he's tried before. So if you don't want to switch to 4-3-3, then you need to move him on side.
But that's the thing. Musrati is a system player, right? Like you need to kind of build, kind of like Talisca. Like Talisca, if you want to get the most out of Talisca, you really need to build around him and utilize his strengths. The same thing can be said about Musrati. Same thing can be said about Rafa. You know. Yeah. And I'm not saying you can't have those players, but I don't know if you want your 6 to be that player. You know what I mean? If you're Braga and your goal is to qualify for the Europa League, maybe that's fine. But for Beşiktaş, I think your 6 shouldn't be the player you build around, unless he's like Paul Pogba or something.
See if your third midfielder's like a second striker like Rafa, I don't think Mustafas is going to work. So I think with a guy like Mustafas,
maybe that's true.
You probably need 2 number 8s that are good passers as well. One of them's a passer, but I think you need both of them to be pretty mobile and have good defensive work rate as well. Yeah. Which Rafa's the second striker. He's not going to. I mean, sometimes he does run back, but he's not going to be in those positions to kind of like help out Musrati for the most part, because he's all most of the time.
You don't want that either, because you want Rafa to be fresh and to be able to make those runs in behind, and to you don't want him constantly tracking back and chasing down the opponents. And of course he does it from time to time, but if you have him doing it constantly, he's not going to have the sharpness in the offensive third.
Yeah, so that's why, as I said there, man, if Rafa's going to be our fulcrum going forward, I think you do need a different type of 6 than Musrati.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Ali can answer that. Everyone knows that. I've been on record.
Are those rumors about Rafa wanting to go? Is there any truth there, or is that nonsense?
Not as far as
I don't think so, man. Like he wanted a big contract. He either wanted to go to Saudi. When that didn't materialize, he came to us because he got a big contract. He wanted the big contract. I don't think that he's gonna want to give that contract up. And I think he's loved by the fans. He's very loved by the fans. So I think those rumors are... Obviously, this is just purely my gut feeling. I think it's BS. I think that's just, media trying to stir the pot. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make logical sense to me because I don't think Rafa is going to be able to get this type of a contract if he goes back to Portugal. He's not going to get that most likely. If he goes, like Saudi didn't happen. I think if Saudi was going to happen, it was going to happen this past summer and it didn't happen. I'm sure there's clubs in Europe that would love to have him. He's a great player, but are they going to be able to offer him the money we give him? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if there's a really big club that comes knocking, maybe. But he's also 32 almost. Like in May, he'll be 32. I don't know if those clubs are still going to be coming for him. If he was a couple of years younger, I think there'd be a much bigger danger of it. But I don't think there's a realistic danger of Rafa leaving unless we initiate it. Or God forbid, one of the two yellow cunts decides to offer him the same or better money, and we're desperate.
But we go to one of those teams. Well, you still got a contract with us. That would have to be.
You would think they wouldn't do that, but you never know. I mean,
2027.
Yeah.
Carlito, where else? Don't forget Tevfik overseeing all of this for the past 8 years. For anyone who doesn't know, he's the guy who came in swinging at Hassan Arat recently. People are saying he should be asked to leave. Probably should, honestly, but Khan 2.0, good to see you, sir. He said, honestly, I don't know what kind of team we would like to become. Is it possession or transition? Umer says, we are lost in that sense. We crossed into the box where the tallest player we have is a midget.
Yeah.
Khan 2.0, see, the point is, if you're going to build the team from scratch, you need to start with no risk profiles, like ball-winning 6 and a big guy as a 9, not Berg or Fati, the wheelchair.
With Rafa on the team, I think you're always gonna be a dangerous team on the break, in the transition moments, and I think a good club, whether look at the teams that are dominating their leagues, that are top of the table in their leagues. Obviously, they can dominate matches, they can dominate possession. But they also score plenty of goals on transition moments. Transition moments are very important in modern football. However, you can be a team that's one-dimensional like we are and only really be dangerous on transitions. I think we need to move away from that. I think we need to start being dangerous on set pieces. Even in this match, again, like you get corners and you're just like, yeah, we're not going to score. It's not happening. Like, have we scored? How many goals have we scored on set pieces this season? Not counting penalties. How many? Like directly from a corner. Have we scored a goal directly from a corner this season? Directly, eh?
I don't know. I don't think so.
We've taken a couple of corners short and then scored, but have we scored?
I think there was one play that, remember, we were like, oh, we actually did a sort of creative play off of a set piece.
Yeah, we've had a couple of creative plays off of set pieces. And
but I think one was like a header in, whatever. Yeah, but either way, your point stands that we're not doing it.
In the past, even last season, first half of the season, we scored 8 goals off of set pieces, just Omar Colley alone. So set pieces this season have been completely rendered moot. Sorry.
Yeah, Omer says we scored 1. Masuaku crossed it into a header. Yeah, I thought so too.
So one set piece goal all season. Normally you score 7, 8, 9.
That's not enough.
matches like yesterday and matches like the past couple of weeks and all season really.
That's how you should have 3 points.
Yeah, exactly. You'd probably have like 3, 4, 5 more wins if you would just score a couple of goals off set pieces from time to time. Because our biggest issue this season is scoring goals.
Yeah. All right, last comment, and I'm cutting it off here because the rest are like, good to see you guys, and of course that always stands, and we'll say a word about that in a moment. But Nasser said, whoever comes in needs to be tactically flexible, but the players also have to adapt to Ole's philosophy and the style he's trying to build. And yes, Omar Colley did score quite a few on his own. But so that's it. Calling it on the chat. Anything you want to say about that before we wrap it up, guys? Do we need to be finding players who fit Ole's philosophy?
I think his philosophy is just players who are willing to give it 100% and work hard. And I think that's a philosophy that any coach, any coach will be happy with players that have that mentality, right? I think that's other than we need a good striker and we need players that can create, I think one of the most important things we need to look at in new players is strong mental fortitude. Players that are, aren't going to drop their heads if they go down a goal. We need players that are strong mentally. And that's why I think like for example, like a Patrick Berg, who has been leading Bodo Glimt for years as their captain. That's kind of what you want, right? If you look at Bodo Glimt over the last, 6-7 years or something, how they've been growing and how they performed in Europe and how successful they have been, if you can sign their captain and you can sign it maybe another team's captain or leader, and you can bring in those players and they're still like at the height, like in their prime. Berg is 27. That's on the older. Obviously that's not a signing. That's not a player you're gonna sign with the idea of, okay, we can flip him. No, that's a player you sign with the idea of, we're gonna build around him. He's gonna be a pivotal part of this project, and he's gonna be here for the coming 4-5 seasons. He's gonna be an important part of it. Like kind of what Musrati is similar. When you sign Musrati, that's kind of what you wanted him to be, right? The difference is, I think, with Berg is he's a leader. At least I assume he is. I don't know him very well. But those types of players, I think we need to go after. And hopefully Ole and Vic and Graaf and those people and Mo, they can identify players with strong mentalities that are going to be able to drag us out of this slump.
And what I was going to say is that one thing Ole has shown is that he is himself very versatile and flexible when it comes to tactics. So as far as finding someone who fits his tactics, he's played with a 3-man back line occasionally, right? Like he'll make use of whatever you give him, I think.
Exactly. One of the ways that Ole was described to me by people was he can make anything work, really. He can play a variety of formations. He adjusts to his players.
He seems willing, certainly.
Exactly. So he's not somebody who's like, oh, I only want to play 3 at the back. I only want to play 4-3-3. I only want to play 4-4-2. That's not Ole. I think Ole is going to play to the strengths of his players. So I think the most important part is that we bring in players that can stand up, put a game, when things are going tough, step up to the plate, deliver. We need a striker that scores goals, that can help other players score goals. We need creativity up top. And then we need leaders. And we need strong, mentally strong players. Karta, what do you think? Which is the single most important
wrap us up,
thing?
Karta.
The single most important thing for recruiting for Beşiktaş?
Yeah.
I think the main thing is we need to have an idea, right? And I think if you want to go with the culture of the club, you need to build a team that's going to be able to dominate games in the Super League. So you need to look out players that are suitable for doing that, and that's the key. And I think the 4-2-3-1, if Rafa Silva is going to be the main man in this team, it needs to be players that are suitable for playing in a 4-2-3-1. So you need to have players that are playing in teams that are dominant. and you need players that are suitable for playing in a 4-2-3-1 as well. And I think you need to make sure you get the personalities that basically people are good personalities, and as soon as shit gets tough, they're not going to give up. I think we need people with more grit and determination and fight than what we've seen in these last few years.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, we've got to change the mentality, and that's the easiest way, is to bring in guys who are used to winning and who demand winning of themselves and of their teams. If you want to argue with Khan about Patrick Berg, you're going to have to join the group chat, Khan 2.0, because I have shut down comments. I did have my Balotelli moment now, there by pulling out the Knicks jersey. The surprise was that I was repping the Knicks the whole episode. But it is important that I say, as I do at the end of every episode, and if you're not used to this, brace yourselves. Let's go Knicks! No, I'm kidding. Let's go Beşiktaş! Peace out, everybody! Let's go! Let's go! What do we got here? We got Özkan! No comment! There's a Batsy! Atkinson! The Bulls run out! Paul O'Connor! Jason! Not a Broberg coach, Jason! Finish! Not a Swedish kebab! Tristan Gray! Michael Berry! Umer! Mr. Positive Gunnar! Dara! The Irishman Hensley! Mario! 1 and a 2 and a 3 burger! Yaltari! Sebastian! The not sporting director Heiner! The vigilante Turk! Nathan! Mr. Manuel Nashmetikov! And of course, the indomitable, the indubitable, the indefatigable, the Nancier, the Dutch Eagle. Peace out, everybody!